Namaskar. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So we are back this weekend as well with our series on Christianity. And today we have with us again Dr. Bijeet Prasantha, who will be continuing his lecture on Christianity, Christianism. And this is the part 8 of the lecture series. So, Namaste, Bijeet.
Namaste.
Okay, so today's is interesting. So we're going to talk about part 8, colonialism and slavery. So can you just give us an overview of what we'll talk about today before you begin the lecture itself?
Sure. So, in the last lecture, we talked about this 1648, the Peace Treaty of Westphalia, which basically gave rise to the idea of nation state in Europe, right? So we knew that entire Europe at some point in the past was pretty much being ruled by the Catholic Church. But the Treaty of Westphalia basically it guaranteed four things, four sort of contracts that from which emerged the idea of nation state. And along with the emergence of nation state, obviously the structure of power was basically bifurcated. One was sort of the eternal power, so to say, the power of the Pope, and another was the temporal power or the secular power, so to say, which was the power of the political administration. And obviously, the we already discussed how the Peace Treaty of Westphalia basically um, emphasized 4 points. One was the sovereignty of the states, of the secular states, so to say, which mean ki let's say if you have a state, let's say German state or whatever, right? Austrian state, Prussian state, whatever you name it. So it will have a complete sovereignty. It will have a complete sovereign authority over the land, which is being termed as the state, right? As that sort of nation state. Second one was the legal equality of the states, which mean ki it does not matter what is the size of the state. In the eyes of, let's say, law, or so to say, whatever secular Christian law, all these nation states within Europe, they will have equal power. Third one was the non-interference of internal affairs, which is to say ki because the power, the secular power is the sovereign power within that nation state, there would not be any interference from the outside, from the, let's say, other nation states, or in from the side of the Pope in crucial matters. And the fourth one was territorial integrity, right? So which mean ki the border will be firmer, border will be stricter, and the territory would become the basis of political identity, so to say. So this was the Peace Treaty of Westphalia, which gave birth to the nation state. We have already discussed it in the previous lecture. So now we are going to put it in the context of, let's say, how it got globalized to other colonies and other continents, and how it merged with the rampant, again, destruction of manpower and everything else. We don't want to say the word explicitly, but you know what I am trying to mean, right? The Janabidhwans. So with the explicit Janabidhwans of various races across various subcontinents, when you punch up this sort of the Treaty of Westphalia and its consequences and the idea of nation state, we will see that the whole colonial structure become, in a way, a slave to the European nation state, and the whole worldview become actually the Eurocentric worldview. Um, so this is one point on which we are going to emphasize on. And yeah, so this, and then obviously we are going to talk about this big, the Christian apologism, right? So basically the Enlightenment philosophy that the West and the whole Europe is so much proud of. We are going. we already discussed how it was actually the Enlightenment philosophy was actually the sort of the Christian apologist philosophy. It was sort of a offshoot, or you can call it direct consequence of the Protestant movement within Europe, right? So we are going to put it in that perspective to understand how the political and the civil and the jurisprudence in the colonies, how they got affected by the so-called universal law and universal overview as proclaimed by these European colonizers, and how it is affecting the native population, so to say. So this will be briefly the topic of today.
Got it.
Again,
Thank you.
one more point: we are not going to um, cite as much particular instances of slavery and everything, because that is the part of the history. This lecture series is pretty much focused on the philosophy side of it. So I think we should discuss the philosophy to sort of bring more argument and more verbosity to the whole philosophy that drove this whole sort of distortion of distortion of native and natural narrative that was prevalent before the Christianism, so to say.
Yeah, so thank you, Vijita, uh, for. Is my audio okay, correct? Just wanted to check.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I can
fine.
hear.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, so, before we start, let me share that we have this book, Unbaptized, written by Esther Dhanaraj. She was a former Christian who accepted or realized the Dharma and became a Sanatani Hindu. So we are going to have her in our podcast as well. So I thought it's important that uh, books like these and people like this are discussed. So this book, people who are watching, if you want to, you can buy this book and learn the journey. Learn the journey the way we are discussing Christianism. So Christianism is correct. It's a kind of a how to say falsified philosophy, and
Right,
how people are trapped in this philosophy, not even philosophy itself, by a kind of propaganda itself. So how people come out of this and know their real identity as a Sanatani. So
right.
if you are seeing this, what maybe buy this book or check a review of this book. And we will also review the book also and invite the author to come and discuss the book as well in coming weeks. So do stay tuned. And we request everybody to share our streams and also subscribe to our channel so that we can get more guests and more people to come our show. Okay, and then let's start. So, Brijita, so you start your lecture, and then
Sure.
I will check comments and also share everything on the
ठीक
file.
है. Right. So let me start with a sort of funny uh, reel that I watched probably today. सो इस रील में क्या था कि एक पाकिस्तानी रोडीज होता है शायद, राइट? आई मीन आई डोंट नो वेदर इट इज कॉल्ड पाकिस्तानी रोडीज, बट वही सेम वर्जन, राइट? और एक्चुअली अब्राहमिज्म समझने के लिए रोडीज इज अ वेरी गुड सॉर्ट ऑफ शो टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज अब्राहमिज्म, राइट? ऑल दीज शोज दैट एक्चुअली गोज ऑन, रोडीज हो गया, बिग बॉस हो गया। तो वहां पे जो जिस तरह से वही कॉन्स्पिकुअस दिखावा मोरालिटी दिखाया जाता है, उससे थोड़ा समझ में आता है कि कैसे नैरेटिव बनाया जाता है, कैसे कॉन्स्पिकुअस एडवर्टाइजमेंट एंड कॉन्स्पिकुअस एक्टिविटीज से मोरालिटी क्रिएट किया जा सकता है। तो इसलिए थोड़ा अब्राहमिज्म समझना आसान होता है। तो एनीवे, मैं सो आई वाज वाचिंग दिस रील एंड देयर देयर वाज दिस गाय, राइट? क्या बोलते हैं उसे, कॉन्टेस्टेंट बोलते हैं या इंटरव्यू जो भी है। तो इनिशियल जो एंट्री के लिए इंटरव्यू होता है, राइट? तो वो एक रैंडम सा कोई बंदा वो घुसता है, और जो पाकिस्तानी रोडीज का कोई एक चुस्सू टाइप बंदा बैठा हुआ है, जिसका नाम मतलब रघु जैसा है, राइट? तो वो बैठा हुआ है, एंड देन दिस गाय, द सॉर्ट ऑफ इंटरव्यूवी, वो आया। फिर उसको ये पाकिस्तानी रघु ने पूछा कि तू क्या कर सकता है, कुछ परफॉर्म करके दिखा, राइट। दिखा तेरे में औकात क्या है, राइट। तो फिर क्या हुआ, फिर इस बंदे ने बोला सर वो गिटार है वो यूज कर सकता हूँ। बोला अच्छा तू गाना गाएगा। बोला नहीं सर, मैं वो गिटार वो लेके मैं सर पे मार के वो गिटार में तोड़ सकता हूँ। बोला अच्छा ये तो कर देगा। बोला हाँ। सो दिस इज द टेंडेंसी, राइट, कि दिस इज व्हाट अब्राहमिज्म डज. What I'm trying to say here कि when we talk about, so we have been talking about natural morality for a while, right? So that natural morality is like that guitar, right? कि अगर एक गिटार है उसको लेके तुम गाना गा सकते हो, उसको it is a musical instrument, it has a very natural utility. लेकिन the I mean Abrahamism, Christianism, Islam, they don't care about the natural utility or natural morality of anything. ठीक है, ऑल दे केयर अबाउट दैट कॉन्स्पिक्यूटी, दिखावा, कि ठीक है मुझे गाना गाना नहीं आता है, गिटार पड़ा है तो सर पे मार के तोड़ तो सकता हूँ, उससे कुछ बन जाएगा, राइट। और फिर अगला जो बंदा आएगा या फिर वही बंदा, उसका दोस्त, उसको फिर सपोर्ट करने लगेगा, उसको एम्पलीफाई करने लगेगा, उसको उसके लिए एक एपोलॉजिस्ट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दे विल स्टार्ट टू क्रिएट, right. So this is the narrative, this is how these Abrahamic Christianistic Christic framework actually works, okay. So you first do some damage, and then you deviate from the natural sort of morality that was there since time immemorial. वो एक्चुअली सिविलाइजेशनली बना था, ऑर्गेनिकली बना था, and so you disrupt that organicness in a society and then you replace it with fake historicity, right. And in your framework all these natural जो historicity, natural जो morality है, जो किंवदंतियां हैं, those are basically what histories coupled with philosophy, coupled with religion, you just dismiss them and you replace it with some Eurocentric worldview, right, or whatever Arab centric worldview. और उस हिस्टोरिसिटी से तुम फिर सुन्नत जिसे कहते हैं कि यू हैव टू फॉलो व्हाट अ सर्टेन गाइड डिड, राइट, यू क्रिएट योर मोरालिटी आउट ऑफ दैट हिस्टोरिसिटी एंड हिस्ट्रियोसेंट्रिसिटी। यहाँ पे जो डैमेज आता है, राइट, इस ये डैमेज ही एक्चुअली अब्राहमिज्म का दिया हुआ है, और इससे फिर सब कुछ निकलता है, उससे स्लेवरी भी निकल सकता है, कॉलोनियलिज्म निकल सकता है। तो और एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट मैं कहना चाहता था. So this is one thing. Actually, अच्छा एक पॉइंट दिमाग में आया था, बट anyway I lost the track of it. So yeah, so this is how the disruption of natural morality works. हाँ, मैं एक्चुअली कोट करने वाला था. So there was a Bengali writer. um, I think I think महाश्वेता देवी बोलते हैं हम लोग, महाश्वेता. Mahashweta Devi is hailed as sort of leftist, um, that sort of writer. But anyway, she wrote a very important line, which is that कि কিংবদন্তি ইতিহাস বাকি যে ইতিহাস লেখা হয়েছে ওগুলো তো বিজয়ীদের লেখা, রাইট, which means कि जो किंवदंतियां हैं वही हिस्ट्री है. और बाकी जो हिस्ट्री क्रिएट किया गया है वो तो एक्चुअली बनावटी है. सो जो किंवदंती है वही असली हिस्ट्री है, और जिसे हिस्ट्री क्लेम किया जाता है विथ व्हाट एवर दिस बाय दिस मार्क्सिस्ट अशराफी हिस्टोरियन, तो फेक हिस्ट्री है. जो हिस्ट्री को समाज नहीं जानता, द हिस्ट्री दैट इज नॉट claimed by the society, the history that is not claimed by a civilization, how can that be called a history, right? अगर कोई बाहर से आता है, कब्जा करता है, and then for 800,000 years they claim कि they have been the king and whatever, they had this emperor over this whole land, but the land itself don't have any civilizational memory of their activities, right? Other than Naramund and some brutality. Then what history have you created? What kingvadanti you have created? All the kingvadanti that you have created, those talk very negatively about you. तो अगर तो किंवदंती ही इतिहास है, और उस इतिहास में जैसे जैसे सल्तनत को, दिल्ली सल्तनत को रिटेन करके रखा है, उसका जो सिविलाइजेशनल मेमोरी, इट्स अ वेरी डार्क मेमोरी, राइट। तो हाँ, तो किंवदंती इतिहास है। और जो अब्राहमिज्म का किया कराया जो इतिहास है, दैट इज नॉट इतिहास, दैट दे कॉल इट कि वी गेट आवर मोरालिटी फ्रॉम हिस्टोरिकल रिविलेशन, बट everyone pretty much know how political and how lie and deceitful these claims are, ठीक है। So such instance, one such lie and falsehood is actually European Renaissance and European Enlightenment, that claimed कि Europe finally got out of the vile clutch of Christianity, and Europe finally discovered a universal understanding of morality. Europe finally got a universal understanding of law, science, philosophy, and everything else that we can conceive in the realm of knowledge. Um, but this claim is nothing but a big lie, because what European Renaissance or European Enlightenment essentially was, one part was obviously rediscovering the pagan past and creating idols and everything, right? In the image of not Christian God, but in the image of pagan God. So Christianity claimed that man has been created in the image of God, but all the European statues that we look at, we can see around in Europe and in the various churches, those were created not in the image of Christian God, but they were created in the image of pagan gods, okay, and pagan philosophers. So ये है Christianism का औकात. Anyway, so this whole, in the discussion of this, so in the next whatever 10-15 minutes we are going to lay out and discuss in detail from D. Rouvers and J. Sai Deepak's book. So yeah, so the J. Sai Deepak wrote a very good chapter in the book India That Is Bharat. And I think because we are discussing about coloniality, and one of the few sort of colonial structures that has remained in India, not a few, but one of the many colonial structures that have remained in India, one of them is judiciary. He is writing from a lawyer's perspective, person who practices law and who understand it. I think it is very important insight that he has provided in this book, right? So we already discussed JSI Deepak citing the D. Rover's work, where D. Rover is examining the views of many central figures of Enlightenment. One of them is the English philosopher John Locke, and this guy John Locke, he has contributed um, immensely to the development of liberalism, to the extent that he is considered as the father of modern liberalism. But nevertheless, his view on religious toleration, equality, and the concept of rights that he derived, he is very explicitly saying he's basically sort of deriving as a Protestant reform over the Orthodox Catholic Christian point of view. Okay, so obviously we have discussed it ki, in the last lecture ki, John Locke is essentially saying ki there has to be toleration and there has to be secularism. What is secularism? Secularism is father of classical liberalism, right? So the so his idea of secularism, for example, it is some sort of a point of view where he is saying ki okay, there is this temporal sort of structure which is the secular structure, which is very earthly structure which keeps changing, but then there is this eternal structure which is the sort of I mean, eternal structure mean Sanatani structure in the, but in the view of Christianism, right? From the point of view of Christian God. And when that happens, right, the constitution that you write, it actually deems, just like Indian constitution, it deems the Christian God and the law of the Christian God as inviolable, right? So when you start writing a secular constitution, in the views of Christian, God is Christian God is inviolable. The diktat of that Christian God is inviolable, and it cannot be changed through any secular sort of administration and the secular state. Okay, so that is the view of the secularism as provided by these philosophers like John Locke. Obviously, the idea of tolerance, as in contrast to our idea of acceptance, right? The idea of tolerance is that okay, it does not matter. We have to just tolerate these point of view, which are actually not the centrist view. The centrist view is the Christian point of view. But no matter what views are there, let's say Islam or some pagan point of view, or some tribal traditional point of view, native point of view, those are actually the fringe point of views. And because they are fringe point of views and we are sitting at the center as the Christian, we have to just tolerate them. We are not bound to accept their point of views, but we can just let them live, right? So this is pretty much the enlightenment's idea of tolerance, right? And obviously the equality, right? In Christian scripture, there is this hidden and the believer and all these sort of us and them otherization. But here the equality was a bit, how can I say it? So they what they tried to derive was that weird kind of equality, wait, the equal among the, like more equal among the equals, right? Which is that कि ठीक है, ये जो यूरोपियन जो सब कॉन्टिनेंट है, यहाँ के जो लोग है, the white race, because they have evolved with a special kind of superiority, and their civilization is superior. So and the evolution is also superior than, let's say, the black people in Africa or the Hindus in India. There obviously will be equality of life, but the special sort of the people who are more equal than the others are the Europeans, because they have a superior civilization as backed by the European science. So basically, they when they started to claim that we have now arrived at the new age of reason, they tried to implement the very quote unquote reason in order to establish their superiority in the globe, right? And the at the cost of humiliation of the colonized cultures and civilizations, just like India, for example. Okay. Right. Huh. So obviously there are other people, like there is this guy Jeremy Waldron, who I think is also currently a professor of law and philosophy. He says ki it may be possible to build the edifice of liberalism and equality on non-Christian foundations. As a matter of ethical history, it must be acknowledged that the modern thought around the equality has been shaped by religion, especially Christianity. Okay, so basically, the whole Protestant movement, and the sort of promises that it tried to whatever deliver, or the thing that is the pact and the dreams that it promised, the idea of equality, right? At least in the modern ethical history, it has emerged from a very specific sort of cult, right, which is the Protestant Christianism. Okay, so obviously, the contemporary notion of equality among human beings might fall apart without the underlying Christian premise, as said by this guy Jeremy Walden. But in other words, contemporary equality and liberalism, in fact, the secularized version of Christian equality and Christian liberalism. So basically, the way we perceive through So, how do we perceive these sort of equality and liberalism? Obviously, through our constitution, right? What kind of constitution it is? It is basically a colonial constitution because it most of the acts and laws were written in 1935 when India was under the occupation of the British, right? So the way we perceive the idea of equality and liberalism, it is not our native idea of equality and liberalism, right? Now you can ask me, अरे इंडिया में तो बहुत कास्ट ये सब था, but India was the first country, even if you read through Manu Samhita, it actually, for example, Bhagavad Gita, Manu Samhita, everything they say कि it is not only about the equality of the human being, right? It is the equality of the and unity of the Atman, right? So for example, there was a Gita slok which says ki विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गभी हस्तिनी, मतलब जिसका जो द a fully educated or fully knowledgeable person, he or she does not distinguish between विद्या विनय संपन्न ब्राह्मण गवी हस्तिनी, मतलब एक ब्राह्मण भी हो गया, एक गौ भी हो गया, एक हस्तिनी हो गया, एक हाथी हो गया, बाद में आता है कि एक कुत्ता भी अगर हो गया, उन सबके अंदर कोई विभेद नहीं मिलता उन्हें, वो सबको एक जैसा ट्रीट करता है. So this is the that universality that we are acquainted with, right? At least the Hindu scripture and Hindu culture was acquainted with. But here, through Indian constitution, is that it has been sort of replaced with this whole Christian idea of the Protestant idea of equality, right? So the equality and liberalism, which our constitution claims to be universal, are actually Christian equality and Christian liberalism. ठीक है. While having a tolerant position on the environment, कि बाकी जो जंतु वंतु है, बाकी सारे जो पेड़ वेड़ हो गया, इकोसिस्टम हो गया, बायोडाइवर्सिटी हो गया, उनके तरफ हमें थोड़ा टॉलरेंस दिखाना है. It's not that we are living in a complete harmony and unity. That is the idea of our equality, right? Christian view of equality is कि उनके तरफ टॉलरेंस दिखाना है. इसीलिए उनका हम लोग एनिमल राइट का ख्याल रखेंगे, उसके लिए कमीशन बना देंगे. सो बेसिकली वो जो पावर है, मतलब एक एक अगेन द ड्यूटी से उसको जो सबवर्ट करके एक राइट की तरफ ले जाना कि एनिमल का रक्षा करना हमारी ड्यूटी नहीं है, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली वी आर नॉट इक्वल, राइट? द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज सेइंग वी आर नॉट इक्वल. लेकिन हमें उनके राइट के लिए बात करना है. नाउ दे से ह्यूमंस आर बिल्ड इन द इमेज ऑफ गॉड, देयरफॉर एवरीबॉडी इज इक्वल. हाँ, राइट. तो हाँ, तो basically, the way we perceive these equality and liberalism are actually Christian equality, Christian liberalism, which are the most perverted form of equality and liberalism in the whole history of human being, mankind. Okay.
Yeah,
Um.
Bijit, just to
Mhm.
one thing. So, like in Bharatiya Samaj or Bharatiya society, correct? We never had a caste system. What we had was correct a kind of a kul, jati, and varna. So
Right.
you had the three hierarchies. Okay. So you have kul. Kul means correct your family. So there's a book called Sivasakulam. So you have your kul,
Mhm.
you have your jati, and you have your varna. Okay. So jati remove it. So if you remove jati, you are left with uh, kul, varna, and rashtra. Okay. Or the place that you live in. So this is how the society was structured. Correct. So varna was your occupation. Okay. If you
Right.
had a certain kind of occupation, you will be part of that varna itself. Kul Kula would be your family lineage, from which family lineage you come from,
Right.
and a Rashtra would be correct in that context would be correct your overall geographical identity where you live. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how the society was actually structured. So the word anyway, we all our audience knows the caste word comes from Portuguese. Okay,
Right.
and the
Right.
caste is a kind of a racial terminology. Okay, so we never had a racial terminology in terms of in defining our social structure or social status. It was defined
Right,
by
right, and we are
your
not
occupation.
denying any. We are not denying ki. We are not saying ki there is no discrimination. I am not saying ki there is no discrimination in Indian society. Indian society. मतलब at a very practical level it has many मतलब unexpected sort of distortion, right? That we need to improve and we have to work on. But our scripture as such, it does not talk anything about caste. It does not
Exactly.
talk about the discrimination. Okay, it does not talk about कि people should be treated badly and with inequality and all these things. Obviously there are different kind of duties um, as inscribed for a सिंगल ह्यूमन बीइंग एज वेल. मतलब ह्यूमन बीइंग के लाइफ में भी ब्रह्मचर्य होता है, गारस्थ होता है, वानप्रस्थ होता है, संन्यास होता है. इफ यू से कि अरे फिर तो बच्चों को छोटा किया जा रहा है क्योंकि उनको पढ़ने के लिए बोला जा रहा है, ब्रह्मचर्य बोला जा रहा है, तो एक गारहस्थ बंदा वो तो
Education is
मजे लेता है.
oppression.
एजुकेशन इज ऑपरेशन है. असली लाइफ तो ये जो
They are being
आ,
they are being forced to read, study.
हाँ यूथ है उनके लाइफ है ना मतलब इफ यू सी द हायरार्की, सबसे नीचे तो बच्चों का है, उनको ऑपरेस किया जा रहा है. जबकि ये जो गार्हस्थ वाले बंदे हैं वो तो मजे ले रहे हैं लाइफ में. इफ यू लुक एट इट फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ऑब्वियसली यू विल से कि यू विल नाउ क्रिएट अ कास्ट अमंग द बच्चा एंड यू यंग पीपल एंड बुढ़ा. जो सन्यास है वो तो कुछ कर नहीं रहा है, वो तो हमारे इकोनॉमी की जीडीपी नहीं बढ़ा रहा है, तो वो तो बेकार है ना. तो वो बुढ़ा, उसको फिर निकाल दो घर से. इफ यू लुक एट इट फ्रॉम दैट वे कि ये बुढ़ा 1000 सालों से बच्चों का शोषण किया जाए. सो द पॉइंट इज देयर आर ऑब्वियसली डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ ड्यूटीज एज prescribed and not ordained in our scripture. एंड इंडियन सोसाइटी डोंट हैव एनी हिस्ट्री ऑफ. तुम्हें दिखा दो कोई एक बुक खोल के दिखा दो कि इंडियन सोसाइटी में लिखा जा रहा है कि ये ऑपरेस हो रहा था या फिर दलितों पे शोषण हो रहा था, असंख्य मादराइजेशन हो रहा था. ये तो कहीं दिखता नहीं है. मंदिरों का अगर पूजा की बात करें, वो तो ऑब्वियसली ब्राह्मण ही करते थे. बाकी जो समाज थे वो करते नहीं थे ना, क्योंकि ब्राह्मणों का एक अलग तरीके से रहना, खाना पीना, वो भी ऑर्डेंट था, जो उन्हें मान के चलना पड़ता था. तो एक क्षत्रिय गर्भगृह में घुस के पूजा नहीं करते थे क्योंकि वो उनका काम नहीं था. अब तुम एक क्षत्रिय ब्राह्मण हो सकता है जैसे परशुराम हुए थे या विश्वामित्र हुए थे, ठीक है. तो ऑब्वियसली अगर कोई
Even
क्षत्रिय ब्राह्मण,
Dronacharya, even Dronacharya
हाँ
करेक्ट कि
जैसे राजर्षि हुए
वो
हैं काफी, जनक
ब्राह्मण थे.
जनक जैसे राजर्षि थे. जनक को राजर्षि कहा जाता था कि राजा भी है ऋषि भी है. तो
वो तो दार्शनिक थे.
हाँ
ही वाज अ दार्शनिक. वो तो जाते
हाँ
थे.
ऋषि थे ना,
ही वाज अ
दृष्टा
दार्शनिक.
थे. हाँ ऋषि थे. ऋषि थे मतलब दृष्टा थे. वाज अ सीयर व्हाइल ही वाज अ व्हाइल बीइंग अ किंग. तो एक फेमस चीज कहा जाता है, कोई
उनको
तो
कहा
एक
जाता है
अच्छा.
फिलोसोफर. फिलोसोफर किंग. इनका नाम
हाँ
नाम है
फिलोसोफर
फिलोसोफर
किंग.
किंग.
राइट राइट.
दार्शनिक.
तो बहुत सारे कहानियां हैं, अब थोड़ा डिस्टॉर्ट हो जाएगा जनक के बारे में चालू करेंगे तो. हाँ जबकि तुम दिखा सकते हो कि जो हरिश्चंद्र थे वो मतलब टू कीप हिज ओथ एंड हिज लॉयल्टी टू ट्रूथफुलनेस, वो ब्राह्मण से या राजा से वो चंडाल बन गया था. राइट. सो ऑल काइंड ऑफ थिंग आर एक्चुअली रिटन इन द स्क्रिप्चर. तुम एक चीज उठा के लाओगे फिर बोलोगे अरे इसने तो ये कर दिया, वो भी थोड़ा डिस्टॉर्ट करके हिस्ट्री दिखाओगे तो ये सब आ ही जाएगा. बट एनीवेज दिस द पॉइंट इज दैट कि हमारे समाज में एक आइडिया ऑफ इक्वलिटी इज मैनिफेस्ट एज द आइडिया ऑफ यूनिटी, राइट, द आइडिया ऑफ ऑर्गेनिक वननेस. बट जो क्रिश्चियन आइडिया ऑफ इक्वलिटी है वो ऐसा नहीं है. वो एक्चुअली इट इज बेस्ड ऑन द आइडिया ऑफ टॉलरेंस कि जो तुम्हारे जैसा है वो तुम्हारे साथ इक्वल है, जो तुम्हारे जैसा नहीं है उसके तरफ तुम टॉलरेंस दिखाओ. सो दिस इज द आइडिया ऑफ इक्वलिटी. ठीक है. और उसी से फिर वो सब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में डाला जाता है और फिर टॉप डाउन एक प्रोपागेंडा के थ्रू समाज में ये जहर बेसिकली घोला जाता है. राइट. जैसे चाय में शक्कर पीते हो, तुम्हें तो लगता है कि यार बहुत मीठा है बट वो तो बॉडी के लिए अच्छा नहीं है ना. सो इसी तरह ये जो अच्छे अच्छे वर्ड लाके उसको फिर उसका आइडिया जितना भी पॉइजनस हो उसको फिर अपनी सोसाइटी में डाला जाता है. ओके सो हाँ जैसे डी रूवर भी बोलते हैं. सो डी रूवर इज ऑल्सो क्रिटिसाइजिंग and the Locke's the division of society into two spheres. One is the civil, and the other one is the religious, right? Based on his writing titled "Letter Concerning Toleration." Okay, and obviously it highlights the stark similarities between the Lockean position and the Christian political theology of two kingdoms and the idea of Christian liberty. Okay, now, what is evidently common between the Lockean position and the Protestant position is that the separation of the civil or the temporal and the religious and or spiritual sort of orders based on the Christian point of view. जैसे मैंने बोला कि secular or eternal, right? Critically, Diruba recognizes that this distinction may not hold good for non-Christian societies whose conception of the relationship between temporal and secular authorities may be very different. हमारे हमारा जो आइडिया ऑफ सनातन है और हमारा जो आइडिया ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है इट इज डिफरेंट फंडामेंटली डिफरेंट इट हैज इवॉल्व डिफरेंटली देन द आइडिया ऑफ secular and the eternal government in Europe, right? So the limits of Locke's religious toleration are thrown into sharp relief when Catholicism and atheism stand excluded from his idea of toleration. So Locke is saying कि भाई these are not Catholicism, atheism are not ideas that sort of should be tolerated, right? Which demonstrate that his views were clearly informed by the Protestant conception of true and false religion. So the same guy, John Locke, who is talking about universal law and order and the toleration and whatnot, he was very much intolerant toward the atheist and Catholicism, which actually mean ki probably this guy is judging the world from a very Protestant point of view, so to say, which was probably the prevalent political, cultish, and superstitious opinion of that contemporary Europe of his time. Okay, right. So now Now, it is precisely for this reason that De Rover calls both secularism and liberalism secularized version of Christian onto epistemology, obscured by the employment of secularism itself as a filter to understand history. Right? And so, what kind of secularism? It is a secularism how Protestants view the world. Protestant view the world again that की the history जैसे move हुआ है इस दुनिया में, the way the history has evolved, Protestantism is the sort of the final product of the natural evolution of all religions. So because they are seeing ki just like human beings are the supreme product of of the process of evolution, that way Protestants are also the Protestantism is actually the pinnacle of all historical evolution of all religions. Okay, so फिर वो लोग जब एक सेकुलरिज्म के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं it is actually the Protestant form of secularism that these Enlightenment philosophers actually talked about. Okay, that the secularization of Enlightenment is perhaps the consequence of a retrospective approach to history appears to be the most plausible argument. This is because several of the leading Enlightenment thinkers were pious Christians in a society heavily committed to Christianity, whose philosophies were significantly more influenced by Christian thought than they were comfortable admitting. So obviously they were being raised and they were brought up in a very Christian atmosphere. So the whole sort of substrate on which they were forming their philosophy was Christian. And these guys actually they admitted in personal life they were ardent Christians. So obviously the worldview that they will propose will also have a tinge of Christianity. Now, challenge to the Christian orthodoxy was a conversation within Christianity and not outside of it. So, in these quote unquote, the Enlightenment philosophers are talking about progressivism or taking the society forward in modern direction, and they were challenging sort of the orthodoxy of, let's say, Catholicism and former religious sort of evolution of the church. It was a conversation within Christianity and not outside of it. They're not talking. I mean, most of the philosophers, pretty much all the Enlightenment philosophers, they actually were talking inside the boundary as defined by Christianity. Obviously, Christianity don't believe in. So Christianity keeps some very much moving and liquid boundary, because obviously they are like, Christianism is like chameleon that changes its color based on the political environment of a nation. But anyway, within that particular contemporary political environment of Renaissance, the Christian, the secular Enlightenment philosophers did not try to break it. They tried to modify it. They tried to adjust it. ठीक है, अगर कोई घर है उसका, ये एक दीवार तोड़ के थोड़ा आगे पीछे सरका लो, अगर थोड़ा, अगर किचन थोड़ा बड़ा करके, है ना, बाकी जगह छोटा कर लो, इट इज मियर एडजस्टमेंट, इट इज नथिंग एल्स मोर देन दैट। तो पूरा अपार्टमेंट तो चेंज नहीं कर रहे हो, इट इज लाइक दैट। So, in fact, scholars believe that the view of such thinkers will effectively a manifestation of their desire for a different kind of church in a different kind of society. तो उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यही था कि हमें एक चर्च एस्टेब्लिश करना है, एक नया सॉर्ट ऑफ कल्ट क्रिएट करना है, जिससे जिससे जो सोशल जो मूवमेंट है, सोशल जो डायनामिक्स है, वो उस हिसाब से हम लोग चेंज कर सके, मैनिपुलेट कर सके, राइट। So another strong point was the when I mean we can give another point when we talk about a German philosopher like Immanuel Kant. So Immanuel Kant was a I mean, whose theory and positions on morality were primarily a generic form of Christianity, devoid of sectarian divide that defined the time he lived in. His contribution was individualization of morality. Now, individualization of morality did not discard the qualities of Christianity. So it actually takes these axioms of Christianity, but it take it to a individual level, rather than creating a heart. So obviously, when he's forming, he's writing this book. I think his name of the he's written many letters and book. One was, I forgot the book. Yeah, I think it will come in the whole in the course of our lecture. But anyway, so he's basically discussing everything in light of Christianity, and he's quoting it actually. He's not being any. He's not hiding it, so to say. Okay, so if the church was seen as indispensable uh, institution for acceptable social peace by even the most radical Enlightenment thinkers, surely it did not indicate a departure from a Christian past, but only a much more secularized approach to Christianity itself, which is the legacy of Protestant Reformation, right? And the Enlightenment represented the second wave of progressive secularization of the Protestant Christian point of view. ठीक है? Obviously, after all, there is no proof that the effect of the Enlightenment was to question the march of European colonialism. Now, यहाँ पे एक चीज आता है, right? When you are framing your argument in Christian point of view, obviously you cannot discard all these essential us and them otherization doctrine that is inherent in Christianism, right? And then you are claiming that these are the universal moralities. Um, if you're living in a Christian Europe, why do you need at that point of time to talk about universal morality? It is only because the European powers were trying to expand at that time into different continents. They're committing again Janavidhwans, Janahatya. They were eradicating cultures and civilizations, and they were sort of quote unquote gentrifying the various continents, including India as well. So, so when they could establish Christianity without any hindrance, they did it, right? Just like in Australia or in US, Canada. So they did it, and they were very much unapologetic about it. But in countries which were populous and which had various social dynamics, but they could not wipe the whole population out of existence. There they started to talk about universal morality. Why? Because um because in so obviously in a country like India, what would have been the centrist position? It had been the Hindu position of understanding the world, right? Because in spite of whatever 780 100 years of rule, the Muslims produced very small amount of intellectuals, right, who could change the worldview of a giant monolithic uh, religious superstructure such as Hinduism, right? Namaskar, retrowave, yeah. So because they could not sort of completely wipe out Hinduism from the uh, subcontinent, what they did instead was an attempt to change the, so to say, Overton window. Ki, because we are ruling, we are the British, we are ruling, and this is our centrist position. Because we are ruling all kind of people like Hindus, Muslims, Christians, we are going to maintain a universal morality, right? What is that universal morality? It is the morality as suggested and inscribed by us. Okay, and because it is universal morality, all of the communities living in India, including the majority Hindus, they have to adjust their morality to point toward this universal position. So no matter what you did in the past, we don't care. No matter what your shastras are, you now start interpreting them in light of the position that we are offering as the ruler of India. Okay, so that's why they started talk about the universal morality. It was not out of no necessity, right? It was out of some necessity, in the sense of colonialism, right? So just imagine they are inventing something which they're claiming as universal in order to rule over other people. So that is the paradox, right? This whole universal morality of secularism, or whatever, like the liberalism and all these things, they have been invented by the Europeans. These structures have been invented by the Europeans to rule other countries, to sort of carve out a position, to carve out a channel through which they can enter into the consciousness and subconscious of the colonial people, okay, of the colonized people rather, sorry. So no wonder obviously that these sort of, so to say, universalist position would bring some distortion in various colonies, right? So I'll take a break here. I have to drink some water. You can continue the discussion for 1 or 2 minutes, and then I'll
Yeah, yeah,
rejoin. I'll be hearing you. I'm just trying
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. No
listen.
issues, no issues. Yeah, yeah, no issues. So, I think there are some interesting comments coming in. So I have taken few comments. Oh, okay. So yeah, so Vyom is writing, which is the Tucker Carlson that day was saying it, we Christians are by doctrinal universalist. We think everyone, regardless of their origin, can get salvation by our Lord. Yes, so actually I saw the
Exactly. Do you
podcast
see the
over there.
paradox here? Do you see the paradox here?
Yes.
Right. It's very obvious. And that's the point about the modern American Christianism, right? The cock Christianism, right? That they don't hide. They are no more hiding about it. So the form of Christianism that you are seeing in America right now, it is the true Christianism. Okay, this Groiperism and Kakism, these are real Christianism.
Yeah, yeah. So he's asking, the rector is asking, okay, do you explain the Treaty of Torbay, which kick-started this age of discovery and the evils of which we are still dealing to this day, and colonialism and slavery being one of those evils? Yeah, I don't think we have discussed that in detail. but probably we'll discuss this in later stages. Whereby that itself is a very long chapter. It will maybe take one episode itself to discuss that specific event and the fallout of it, which caused a lot of issues. Okay. It's after War of Roses in England and the intense violence, we see Hobbes coming up with the Leviathan, and in its counter, Locke comes up with his response. Yes, that was the case. I think I'm not sure, but we have not read about this, but it's an interesting point that Hobbes, Locke's interpretation or his counter was against the Hobbes. Okay, let's take one or two comments. See, yeah, this is interesting comment from Anand. At that time, they were German Christians, English Christians, Italian Christians, Middle East Christians. I think uh, there is a different strain of Christianity in terms of old, correct, very old Syrian Christians. So I'm not sure how old the Syrian Christian denomination is, but the Middle Eastern old Christian traditions are quite different from the European Christian tradition or the Roman tradition. So as we can, and that actually gives us a bit of a overview, point of view that you see the Syrian Christians, the Roman Christians, uh, the Orthodox Christianity in Russia. Okay, they have very different traditions, and they are there. That actually shows that Christianity itself did not had its own culture or its tradition. It just incorporated the existing traditions wherever they went to convert people and appropriated those traditions. Yes, Anand. Yes, Anand. Your your mic is muted.
Okay, is it work? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you can hear.
Okay, I just came on because I mean, like, it is a very interesting
Hi.
topic to discuss
Yeah, yes.
because I'm
Please go
little
ahead.
bit of a history buff, especially European history buff. So
Uh,
no, the thing is that if you observe when Christianity started, it started like a Roman cult, right? And then it's just slowly adopted by the Roman
okay.
religion.
Wait. I think from my understanding, please let me if I am wrong. The original Christian sects which are there in Middle East, and they are probably the most oldest one, correct? So because
No, the oldest
the
one is from the where the Romans were controlling. Yeah, Middle East somewhere because the Romans control a large land mass, right? They
no
didn't
no
control
no
only
no
Rome.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the Syrian Christian tradition or the Christian sects in Middle East, okay, what we call Middle East, they are the oldest traditions in terms of Christian sects and the way they worship. Correct. So and from
That's
there
the
it was
Aramaic Christians. Aramaic Christians, the one. So Christianity used to be
correct.
spread in Aramaic earlier, not in Hebrew or in
Correct,
Latin.
correct, correct,
Those are the
correct,
old.
correct.
Many of them are dead or dead have died off. The Syrian Christians claim to
Hmm,
be offshoots of that Aramaic sect. Say claiming that they claim. Say for example, you can never verify that they were the oldest Christians.
hmm, hmm,
It's kind of impossible right now at this stage, right? Because what Christianity has done is wiped out even its own history. The thing with religions like Christianity and Islam is they wipe out their own history because it's impossible to, and you need a very specific kind of culture to keep the history written. So that's why if you notice large empires like Constantinople and the British Empire, right? They're able to write and keep their history running. Same with the Germanic Empire, right? When the empires built, then they were documenting all this history. Before that, they were wiping out each other's
Yep.
subsects, right? So my reason why I was mentioning this is because Christianity has gone through multiple sects before they've come to the current format, right? And they've gone through a lot of infighting. Like, for example, the Christians who came from Rome would have a different perspective than Christians who are from the Middle East, right? Same way, if you remember, there was a big fight between the Pope and the other Anglican sects in Western Europe, right? If you observe that when the Crusades happened, the knights that went to the Crusades were doing it for a political reason, not for religious reason, right? And they went through Christian territory and they butchered a lot of Christians along the way. Like, if you read the history, the amount of people the Christians killed, the amount of Christians the Christians killed, Christian kings killed themselves, was much higher than the number of Muslims they killed when they arrived in the Holy Land to fight the Crusades, right? And it was Saladin, the emperor at that time, who was more gracious compared to the Christian crusaders at that time. So, for example, post that, maybe the Christians were like, "Oh, we'll." They didn't actually, but my point is that they may claim they got more evolved and positive and stuff. But Christianity at fundamental level was, even for example, take Joan of Arc. Even the most interesting story of Joan of Arc, right? It is the same thing. It is them prosecuting a woman who claimed to speak for God by other Christians who also came to speak for God for political reasons, right? So it has always been used for political reasons. It's rarely gone back to theology or to the book. Even the book has been reinterpreted multiple times. So, for example, today, if you ask a Christian whether he accepts the Old Testament, he'll say no. He'll say only the Gospels are true. But when he talks about Adam and Eve and the snake, they'll refer to the Old Testament. Right? Because in the Gospels, you do not have all this stuff. You don't have the story of Job. You don't have the story of what's the name of the cave one? The one in the cave, the lion cave. A lot of these stories are part of the Old Testament. They're not part of the New. They're not part of the Gospels. So Christians selectively pick and choose that which is politically suitable for the time frame. Same with slavery, right? I think I was saying colonialism and slavery is the title. So same with slavery. At point when slavery was useful to the Christian community, they used justification from the Bible for the slavery. But the minute it became unconscionable, or the fact that the world was seeing what they really are, right? They said, "Oh, we will not want slavery anymore." Because fundamentally, if they are claiming, and same thing with Tucker Carlson, like people like you mentioned Tucker Carlson, right? Tucker Carlson's idea of Christianity is coming from post-Enlightenment, post-American Revolution Christianity, where local agnostic. So a lot of the founding fathers of America were agnostic. They were not Christian. They were not Christian. Fundamentally, they were not. Their idea of the world was not Christian. They may be influenced by Christianity, but their idea of the world was through struggle and through their challenges with the monarchy in England, right? So their framing of their Christianity also came from that opposition to.
So what you want to say that this was not Catholic Christian? Nevertheless, they were Protestant
Because
Christian.
Anglican Christianity is very similar as well. So, for example, Anglican Christianity differs authority to the king, but a different king, not the Pope, right? They defer authority to the king, but being advised by the Archbishop. So it's
But
like
again,
clergy
so the
plus
idea
king.
of equality, secularism that the American US Constitution talks about, it is taken from the Protestant point of view, right? I mean,
No, it's
they are
not.
talking about equality and all these things at the same time when they are committing genocides. So
No, it's not
they
from
are
the Protestant. It's not from Protestant. It's an opposition to Protestant Christianity.
Anglican. I mean, I would say Anglican.
Correct.
Right?
But it's opposition to Anglican Christianity. You have to understand. The Anglican
But
Christianity fundamentally supports the monarch.
it is Reformed Christianity, right? It is not the typical Catholic Christianity, so to say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not. I'm saying. What I'm saying is, the American Constitution specifically is unique. It is even more unique than the French Constitution because their system. See, for example, you look at the Canadian Constitution is more similar to what you were framing. The Canadian people framed it in terms of Protestant Christianity. But the
Right,
American Constitution is opposite
because
to
in
even
America
that.
there is no pope. There was no pope, and the whole continent was disconnected. So they didn't
Yes,
need the pope in order to establish their
not just Pope. They were
kingdom,
against
so to say.
they were against the Church of England as well. See, you have to understand, they were against the Catholic system. They were against the Anglican system. They were against Orthodox system. That's why they multiple groups were able to function within the same region. But they kept their cultural distinctions. For example, you see, they kept their wasp nature. They kept their the Italians versus wasp. So it became a sectarian problem in America, right?
But
It didn't
the
become a
but
religious
the
problem.
more equal, being more equal among the equals, right? Ki there are some people who are more equal, right? So that idea, ki voting
So
right,
what?
only
So what you are
some people will have voting right and non all the other. So this idea of sort of fringe equality, or so to say non-universal matlab it's, isn't it a sort of Protestant universal equality, right? Quote
No,
unquote
it is
universal
it is what
equality.
Protestants claim they follow, but they don't follow. So for example,
Right,
you look
right.
at you look at Protestant countries, right? They defer to the authority of the church, which automatically makes people unequal to clergy. Clergy already is
Well,
become elevated to a position of power.
the point
You know
is,
what I mean?
so we are repeating this point, which is to say ki Christianism is like chameleon. It changes its color as per the place and the time. For
Absolutely.
example, in India, the whole aesthetics of Christianism is just like Hinduism, right? So it is no wonder that in US the color of Christianism will be different,
No, no, but that's
right?
what I'm explaining to you. That we are making a fundamental mistake. We are giving too much power to the the post Constitution Christianity. So, for example, if you read what the founders of America wrote, it was in clear opposition to fundamental Christian beliefs. It
It
is like
was
a
not
it's like
opposition to the belief. It was so to say ki the religious belief should not be whatever central in deciding the governance, and so
no,
that
no.
was
It
a
is not even
secular, that was a
no.
secular form of governance,
But
right?
not the secular way we look at secular, like the way it's taught to us. So how is secularism taught to us? It's like all religion can do what they want and leave with the state will be equidistant to religion. The American Constitution was the religion will not play any role in public life. It is detaching religious
No, no, it is
religion from
not
public
saying
life.
ki it should not play any role in public
No,
life.
no, that's
What?
something I
No,
explained
no,
to
no.
you.
It is not written. It's not written in the constitution. What is written is that ki the religion would not be sort of it. There will be no religion which will be utilized to frame the public
No, no,
policy.
no, 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 no. That's what I'm saying. I've studied some of the court cases. There are a lot of atheist groups in the US who have brought court cases against Christian groups who try to install things like, the Ten Commandments and those kind of things within public spaces. And they have won court cases, and the court case, of course, have specifically said no Christian belief can be imparted within school, like public spaces, like public schools, public sector undertakings. Christianity cannot enter that space, even if
No, no.
you
I
personally
so
prefer it.
the what I can see, the first amendment of US Constitution says, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or
Yes.
prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which means it ensures the freedom of religion and the separation of church and state
No, no, but
simultaneously.
I
The first
you understand
amendment. Now,
understand
when
what
you
he
are
said.
talking about the separation of church and state, it is precisely the idea of secularism, right? The classical secularism that is established in the Protestant way. Ki church and state will be separate. State will be secular, but church is sanatan. Church is eternal. So the state, while framing the law, it will be secular, but church is eternal. So it is the state through its constitution will not touch the religion. तो रिलीजन आप जैसे मर्जी प्रोपोगेट कर सकते हो. तो अगर 90 वहां पे वट एवर 1000 क्रिश्चियंस आर देयर इन द यूएस कॉन्टिनेंट, दे कैन डू वट एवर टू द नेटिव पीपल, as because that is part of the whatever part of the Christianism. The
One
state
second.
would not talk about it.
So this is
Uh,
I'm sorry.
okay. Oh, wait. So Rishi has some points to make. Rishi, go ahead.
No, sorry,
Rishi,
sorry.
Namaste to everyone. Anna, Bijeet also, and
Namaste.
Vimas Dada. So, all of you can comment on this issue of Christianity in U.S. Constitution and so on. I think, Bijita, are you trying to say this? Okay, this is just my interpretation, but even though they do not profess the religion Christianity, but they derive all of the so-called rights from Christian morality itself, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
Thomas Jefferson mangles the whole Bible. So he takes out all of the miraculous portions from the Bible and makes a new Bible uh,
There you go.
for the new America.
Right,
Right. So that still remains. That latent Christianity still remains, except all of the supernatural stuff he throws it out. And I
right.
think even the comments by Edmund Burke on I'm forgetting who was the radical guy in the founding fathers who was inspired by the French Revolution. Uh, he was also an atheist. He wrote against Christianity a lot. So even against him, Edmund Burke was giving these arguments that okay, you are against me, but at the end of the day, all of the sort of morality that you are trying to preach to me on equality and so on and so forth, these are from Christian tenets.
Right.
These are not from some independent tenets that you can come up with. So these were the things I've seen. Maybe you can all comment on it much more.
Right, right. So I also heard about it in some random podcasts. But so what you said, yeah. So I heard about it, and that actually says something about this precise point. Ki the morality that was exported to United States by these people, by these colonizers, it was pretty much. I mean, pretty much all of it was the Christian morality, except for these whatever magic and the God and the Christian God, right? So
No,
it
see,
is.
then
Mhm.
I disagree with you here because see, if you the problem we are entangling, they're saying Christian morality can exist without their religion, their religious aspects. It cannot. See, you have to understand
It can
their
actually.
rights. Their rights are endowed by God, by the Creator. That's
Exactly.
very important for them. It is not. So
That proves
what
our
is the
point that the morality
very good.
that they incorporated was
No, no, no,
actually
they did not.
of the
They say
Christian God.
differently. No, they say rights are endowed by the Constitution,
No,
by the
no, no. So,
framing of
so
the
for
yes.
example, in the
No,
currency
no, no,
that
no,
right,
no.
so when they are writing the constitution, they put one thing at the very center. There is God in which they trust.
No, they didn't have this in the
So
Constitution. This is added later. They are
no,
making a
no, no.
mistake.
I am not saying in God we trust is added in the constitution. I am not saying
Yes.
that. I am saying ki when being asked ki bhai, okay, what is the basis of all these things? So the attitude is in God we trust.
No, it is
That is
not.
the
That's what I'm
attitude
saying.
to.
It is not. You have to understand. They when they frame the constitution, it is not about God. It is about being a nation of equals who beat the
You're not. No,
monarchy
no, no.
in
I agree
opposition
with
to the
you.
monarchy.
I agree with you. But see, you make a list of laws. Okay, so let's
Let me
say
let me just read this. This is very important.
no, no. So
This is
no, I agree on you. Just I am saying ki just try to have a bird's eye view. So these guys are writing constitutions, right?
Mhm.
And these are a set of again some a set of commandments. What is a constitution? These are a set of commandments and law. And now, what is the justification of those commandments and all the law? If you ask them, many of them, you will get the even now. If you ask them what justifies this constitution, the prevalent attitude in US is okay. It is coming from the God. In God we trust.
no, I cannot frame what the I can't say what the framers of
So
the
can you
constitution
derive
said.
the US Constitution from a fundamental first principle? If I
No,
ask you
that's not.
what is that first principle from which the Constitution is emerged?
That is why, for
As
example,
per as okay, as per you, it can emerge from natural morality. In fact, that is the question I am asking myself when I am trying to derive, let's say, Hindu Rashtra. But the point is, if I ask a average American, what are the justification of these commandments and all these laws that are there in the Constitution, they will be like, okay, it is coming from that God, and in their
yes,
mind, it is coming from that Christian God.
they will say that, but they are wrong. They would be wrong. That's my point. We are conflating what the average American might say about the Constitution with what the founders of the
Who is
Constitution.
protecting the who are protecting the Constitution?
The courts. That's what I'm saying. That's why we read. Let me read this. That's why the courts are extremely good in America. That's why you have to value the court system in America. In spite of them having a significant political differences, frequently their chief justices defer to the constitutional framing. So this is one. The Lemon test is developed in 1971 by a case, Lemon versus Kurtzman. This is very useful. This test required government action to satisfy three prongs to be considered constitutional under the Establishment Clause. First, the government action must have a secular legislative purpose, which basically means all citizens are the same. We keep mixing up, conflating secular with religion. Secular means all citizens are the same, including religion added to that framing, right? Second, its primary effect must neither advance nor inhibit religion. So they are basically detached from the framing of the law. The law must not like advance or inhibit. It should be neutral towards that perspective. Third, the action must not result in excessive government entanglement with religion. So again, you're not supposed to entangle yourself with religion. The primacy is that because we saw what happened in England, the government was entangled with the religion. They did not want that in their state. And the last one is, and this is very clearly, if any of these three requirements were not met, the law violated the Establishment Clause. So this is how they frame almost everything that we discuss. So that's why, for example, you look at their decriminalization, their same-sex marriage bill. That is exactly how Justice John Roberts came to the conclusion, even though he was a right-wing conservative judge, because he fundamentally saw the constitution violated because it was coming from a religious framing. The way they were opposing us coming from religious framing, so they had to step back, basically.
Now, let's say, so let's consider, you are all the law that are in whatever institutionalized, implemented, they have to be secular, and they have to respect sort of all religion, right? I mean, they have to be neutral to all religion.
It is a detachment.
Now you implement it in real life scenario. Let's say immigration policy. Let's say they come up with a bill कि all immigrants are उनको
have to be Christian.
भगा दिया जाएगा. No, they don't talk about Christianity. They say कि भाई जितने immigrant है सारों को भगा दिया जाएगा. ठीक है? And let's create a hypothetical scenario जहाँ पे let's say 10 साल 20 साल से हमारे इंडियन को जितना वीजा दिया गया है वो 70% है, तो Indians are actually dominating that strata of the society जहाँ पे सारी immigrant है.
Yes.
Now the law can be secular कि हमने तो बोला ही नहीं कि Christians को भगाएगा या हिंदुओं को भगाएगा.
Correct.
लेकिन the law will be impacting predominantly Hindus.
Yeah.
You see how you can frame a law. अभी जैसे मान लीजिए अभी SIR चल रहा है बंगाल में, ठीक है, ऑब्वियसली इट इज अ सेकुलर लॉ कि इंडिया में जितने लॉ बनता है वो सारा सेकुलर ही होता है ना. मतलब इंडियन जुडिशियरी भी थोड़ा बहुत मतलब सेकुलरिज्म को मेंटेन करके रखता है ना.
Wrong. No, that's before you go to India.
The main point, the SIR they are saying कि भाई हमारा जो सिटीजन है उनको हम लोग रखेंगे, जो बांग्लादेश से जो सिटीजन आए हैं उनको तो वोटर लिस्ट में नाम नहीं आएगा. बांग्लादेश से जो लोग इमिग्रेट करके आ रहे हैं अभी लेट्स से आफ्टर 2002, वो प्रिडोमिनेटली वो मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन है, बिकॉज दे हैव अ थिंग इन माइंड कि वी हैव टू मेक दिस ग्रेटर बांग्लादेश, and it is predominantly affecting one community, which is the Bangladeshi Muslims.
Yeah, but it
is a secular principle, but when you implement it, it is actually choosing to attack a very specific community. If attack is the right word.
That is where you would the American justice system and ours is not the same. So, for example, if you look at Trump's first term, I'll give you a very good example. Trump's first term, he created a bill where he would prevent immigrants from 5 different countries. 5. They're predominantly Muslim countries, right?
5 but he didn't 10, frame it. I think it was 8 or 10 countries.
He didn't frame it as the Muslim bill. The people they framed it, but the courts threw it out because they said it is impossible for us to validate such a law that selectively picks and choose from countries that can come, because it is majority going to be from one community. So the American courts will not substantiate. So, for example,
don't say it. So the point is, in US, when the speed limit is 60 miles per hour, if a white guy is running at 70 miles per hour, उसको पकड़ा नहीं जाएगा.
No, that is implementation. You're mixing implementation and legal. No. You're mixing law making
because
and
the
implementation.
Population is predominantly Christian, na? So you
that
can
Okay. Just one more thing. So this is the from the Charter of Independence. Correct. So we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Happiness.
So correct. So
Who is the
uh,
creator?
No,
Creator
yes,
with a
their
exactly.
capital
creator.
C.
It is very important. Their creator is not the Christian God. They could have added the Christian God. They add their creator because
Okay.
you understand.
Okay.
They at that
It's a
time itself
capital
they were
C, dude. It's a capital C.
no, no, we are imposing our personal
Okay.
current
Okay.
No,
Okay.
situation
no,
to
no, no,
them.
no.
So
Wait.
who is the creator here with a capital C?
Yours,
Okay.
who you bring as a
Let.
creator?
Okay. We need to hear Rishi's argument. Rishi, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Rishi, go ahead.
over here, Anand Dada
I
is
could be wrong.
correct that Dada is correct that it's not specifically Christian God. It's because they were deists. Mainly, those who were writing these texts were deists. What I am saying is the morality that they preached that
Hmm.
was from Bible. That was specifically from Bible. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's yes, what Dada has been saying that they are not entirely basing it from Christianity as a religion itself. It's true. It's completely true. They do not do that at all. They they it was, I think it was a pet peeve of Thomas Jefferson himself, which is why he mangled the whole Bible to make it unchristian. Literally, he removed Trinity, he removed everything that was the Christianity, so called, and he made it a completely neo-Christian. What should I say? An American religion, so called. A new America, a new land, a new religion. That's what he made. But that what
And
Bijitda
that
says,
is the
that
attitude of
latent
the
thing that
Protestant
still
movement,
remains
na? That is the attitude of the Protestant movement.
completely.
Ki we will
Nahin,
have
nahin.
our own religion and our
Mhm.
own church.
Nahin, nahin,
That
nahin.
that
Protestant religion is in fundamentally opposition to the Pope. They
I'm talking about
framed
the
it as
attitude. I'm talking about the attitude. कि we will have our we will have like अगर एक community है उनका अपना church बनाएंगे अपना morality बनाएंगे. That movement, that attitude कि भाई हम लोग वो जो पोप है ना वहां पे बैठा हुआ जो कैथोलिक चर्च का उसके बाद नहीं मानेंगे हम लोग क्रिश्चियन रहेंगे बट अपने हिसाब से डिसाइड करेंगे जैसे हिंदू
but
अपनी बातें करते रहते
do
कि
you
ठीक
notice
है
each
we are चारवाक we don't believe in Veda but we are Hindu that
nahin, nahin, nahin,
attitude.
but no, but Protestants are, have you noticed Protestants still create their own Pope locally?
वही तो बोल
They
रहा हूँ मैं
gravitate towards the same
कि मुझे
structure.
एक सेंट्रलाइज्ड पोप नहीं चाहिए दैट्स द पॉइंट आई एम सेइंग दैट एटीट्यूड
That
कि
I agree with you.
यूएस गए हैं यूएस वाला अपना एक रिलीजन क्रिएट कर लेंगे हम यहाँ पे
No,
हम
that I agree
वो
with you.
इटली का पोप का
I'm
बात
not, that I don't disagree with you at all. The reason I framed is because my point is we give too much power to the current, what do you call it, Christian movement to frame them in alignment with the creators of the
हाँ
constitution because they were different people. See, but the
नहीं दैट्स
problem
द
is,
पॉइंट ना द
हाँ,
करेंट जो का क्रिश्चियनिज्म है या फिर जो अपना ग्राइपर क्रिश्चियनिज्म है obviously they are aligning themselves with the American Christianism, American quote unquote Protestant Christianism.
no, it is European Christianism. It's old world Christianism. They're aligning with that. Not with American Christians. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. They're aligning themselves with old world, what do you call this, cultish Christian. They keep killing each other, fighting each other. That's what I'm trying to explain. You have to understand. They're going back to old world Christianism because and old world Christianism is rooted in race. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It is not rooted in beliefs or in principles. It's
Just
rooted in race.
again. So when you're saying old world Christianism, how old you're saying that the Protestant Christianism is not. I mean, they don't believe in race.
As
They
the
do,
old world
right? Like
Christianism,
you read
no,
Immanuel Kant. You read this guy, Immanuel Kant. He's writing ki. So there is this scientific temper. He's talking about scientific temper, and he's writing ki he okay at the age of 71 he completed the manuscript toward perpetual peace, and he consciously openly believed in the hierarchy of races and in particular the superiority of whites over non-white. To him, the Native Americans were weak, inert, incapable of any culture,
correct.
and occupied in the lowest rung of the radical hierarchy. And his belief was that the white represented the perfection of humanity,
Yeah,
right? So, I mean, would you call it a enlightenment? You call it enlightenment philosopher, right?
yeah,
This guy and his writing. So this is
I don't.
enlightenment philosophy,
I don't.
and and this is a typical attitude. right? So these
No,
guys
no, I'm agreeing
clearly
with you. They also agree with
dismissing the Christian God, but the morality he is actually adopting from the old Christianism. That
you. They
the
also
old
agree with you.
Christianism.
I
So
completely
no
agree with
matter
you,
whether
Jeff.
it is the Groyper Christianism or Kak Christianism or Kant Christianism, it is the same Christianism, the same value that they talk about. They are talking about this universal equality and all these things, but they don't really believe in it.
They don't believe it. I agree. I'm not
Because
disagreeing
when
with
you
any of that.
when you say about equality and then you import this historiocentricity and historicity of civilizational evolution to believe ki white are the superior race, then the equality goes down the gutter and you
No, I
start
agree.
believing in the historicity itself.
But there I agree with you. I agree with you. I just want to frame it because I feel often that these guys, the current racist group, they take advantage of the superior intellect of the founding fathers. Because those people who
Ah,
actually thought about the consequences of what they were writing. These people don't think about
right.
anything. They don't think about consequences at whatsoever. Right? Those people had to go through difficult situations just to establish their state. See, we are mixing up these guys on the internet to those people who actually went to difficulty and actually philosophers. They actually studied philosophy. They read stuff from around the world. They debated what they were going to structure in their next generation. These
Right.
people don't do any of that shit. We can't conflate the two strains. That's what I'm saying. So, for example, you take England and France. Why do they have the 100-Year War? 100-Year War for the same family, similar racial identity, similar, but they still wanted to one up each other on Christianity, on the basis of Christianity. That I am the
Right.
superior, what क्या बोलते हैं, the person to hold up Christianity. See, we have to understand. Until we understand the enemy, we are going to we'll fall for their trap, and their trap is to say they are all one. They are
No,
not
no,
all
no,
one.
no. But I must say one more thing here. Ki you can't believe what they write. You cannot believe
I
what
don't.
they
I
write.
don't. I don't
If
believe
they
it.
don't mean what they write,
I look
that's
at
the
the
main
action.
problem. You have
Look
to
at their action.
understand the action exactly, the action and the attitude. ठीक है? Because most of the thing they'll say, "अरे ये तो मतलब I am saying it as a joke." So when I was doing PhD in my group, there was this guy, this white guy, and he was saying ki, what is the population of India? I said ki 1.4 billion. Well, it's actually 0.7 billion, and I was like, why? And he was like, okay, you are half human. Ha ha ha. I mean it as a joke. They don't mean it as a joke. They are saying it right in your face.
They think it.
Now, if
Yes.
you're
They believe
really
it.
stupid Hindu, you will believe कि अरे ये तो joke में कह दिया चलो
Yes.
कोई बात नहीं. But you have to understand the attitude behind a joke, even when they
That
are
I agree
throwing
with
a
you.
joke.
See, that's why I agree with you completely on the cultural framing. Even the founders of the American state, even there I agree with you. Their cultural morality was framed from a Christian lens. I give you that because
Hmm.
fundamentally, when we create ideas, and especially in our 40s and 50s, which is what their age is coming up to, your moral framework is almost set. It is very difficult
Hmm.
to like change that point, right? So
Right.
when you write something, what I would say is that they were pragmatic Christians, or in the
Right.
case they were pragmatic deists who understand the political landscape they were trying to govern. So for example, when you Ambedkar, for example, framed all his ideas based on the political landscape he was trying to govern, right? All
Right.
the different SC groups that he was trying to bring together, he framed all his ideas based on that, not just on the
Right.
fact that he was analyzing scholarship and stuff. He framed it from a political lens as well. So we have to accept that they were framing even their ideas from the Christian political lens because majority of the people who lived there were Christians, and they would have
Right.
to you have to massage your ideas to suit their sensitivities. Or they may be the next revolt.
Right. Right.
True, true,
एंड
true.
उनका उनका शायद एटीट्यूड ये भी था कि मतलब इतना दूर आ गए अब वो कचरा क्यों लाना है. आई थिंक इट वाज देयर एटीट्यूड प्रोबब्ली.
And at the time
Uh,
there was strong opposition to the monarchic empires. You understand, America was in a throes after its civil war. It not civil war, after its war against the British Empire.
Independence,
they,
whatever. War for
yes,
independence.
they were in a throes of, do we keep these nobility in our culture? Like, because there were a lot of nobles from Europe who had come
Mm-hmm.
and settled in America as well, right? And they control a lot of the land, a lot of the resources. So if those nobility framed themselves in alignment with the British Empire, they were going to be in the chopping block next. So a lot of the intellectuals who were like basically funded or propagated by those nobles would frame it against the empire in Europe. So you see, I
Right.
understand how everything is political in nature, fundamentally. Even your framing of morality.
See?
Okay, so Rishi would to explain something which actually supporting both Anand and Vichita. Rishi, go ahead.
Yes, yes. Thanks. So this is a song, the anacreontic song. So this is supposed to be the original inspiration for the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem for America. So if one studies this song, they can get the idea what Ananda was saying. Also, Bijitda was also alluding to it. How they were like totally distant from Christianity itself, but yet they kept the Christian morality because it was inherited. They had no other framework after all.
Right.
But how they were totally distant from Christianity, this song is one of the best evidence for it. Like you can see the references to Bacchus and
Exactly.
other pagan god of Greeks.
Venus.
So this is a song of freedom, and the allusion is to the Greek god of wine and I think festivities. I think if I remember correctly, and you will enjoy this. You will all will enjoy this.
Yes. So
It
okay,
looks like
so
a
let's
pagan. It looks like a pagan song.
yes, it's a pagan song. So it's a Apollo rose up and said,
matlab
so
I don't see any Christian God here. Maybe the framework
Nothing.
will be Christian.
No,
Maybe
no,
the
see,
vibe
they're
would be,
framing as
I don't
devil
know.
and devil. They frame the devil within this as well. See, you
Okay,
understand,
so there is
it's a very
no, there
syncretic
is
form
good
of.
king of the god. There you go.
Yeah,
So it's like this Greco-Roman Gentile philosophy
yeah,
coupled with
yeah.
the Christian morality.
Because fundamentally, Christianity became mainstream from Rome. So,
Huh. No, that's what we have been saying, na, ki they adopted pretty much many of the pagan philosophies without giving any attribution, right? Any proper references.
correct.
Because they
That is
destroy
why
So
their
it's
own
that
Vijita
history
has
and
and
pagan history.
never happened. Yeah, go ahead, Rishi, go ahead. Rishi, go ahead.
yeah, so Vijita Anda, I've seen many American atheists actually using this song to argue against all of the right wingers in America, saying like when they say that founders were Christian in mind and so on and so forth, like OG Christians. So they refer to
Hmm.
this song and say that how can a Christian get inspired from this sort of song with Apollo,
Right,
Bacchus, and such references?
right.
see let me read few more. I don't know if I can share this to you. This is a
Yes,
legal
you can do.
Supreme Court ruling.
You can do. You
Supreme
can
Court
do.
ruling.
Just put it on the private chat. I'll update.
I'm also my PC. How do I get this? Hmm. Can I just put it in the chat, normal chat?
Yeah, yes, you can put it. Put it. I'll copy it.
I just put it. So if you look at some of the landmark rulings on public religious display, right? There are some really good ones because this fight has been going on for some time in America, especially in the 90s to the. So I think I left the US in like 2003. Is it 2003? It's been going on since the late 80s till the early 2010s. This fight with about religious displays, right? And they've been winning suit after suit after suit, the atheists, because fundamentally the courts support the idea that religious beliefs have no place in public policy or public structures, because they
Right.
frame. So for example, what is legal in America is this: you can go to your church, you can say this legal this law is going out, put pressure via your secular institutions, but believe in the religious reason why you want to go against it. So, for example, if you're against abortion, you have a strong belief against abortion from a religious perspective, but you vote in a secular manner without telling you're voting because you have a religion. But if you
Hmm.
strike down a law by saying Christ said no abortion, that is unconstitutional under American law, right? But we would not see it like that. We would not see it like that. For example, we would see Gau Mata is part of our cultural heritage and her protection is important. Every Indian must defend that right? Because we are not secular the way Americans are secular. We are actually, we are technically not secular, but the court keeps calling us secular, so I don't know. But we are a fundamental pluralistic people, and we have some cultural moorings that we want to keep consistent in our culture,
The
right? And that's why,
civilizational ethos, so to say.
correct, exactly. We don't have a civilized ethos. You understand, America is not a civilized country. It
Exactly.
is a nation state created by people who overthrew a monarchy. So
Right.
when you overthrowing a monarchy, you need to frame some commonality, because again, America was a group of Italian immigrants, then earlier pilgrims, like some Asians, like some lot of Jews, lot of African who had lost connection to their tribal heritage, right? Who were converted forcibly by the church. Like a lot of things, they had like, multiple identities going on. So you need a foundational ideology. And you're right, they took that from the cultural moorings of Protestantism, but from a pragmatic American system. Like it's a unique system. It's like not comparable to any part of the world.
Right.
Australia
Right.
is Australia is comparable to Anglican Protestantism. Canada is comparable to Anglican Protestantism, but America is not. That's my point. The USA is not.
Right.
That's what I was trying to make distinction. That's all.
Yes, Vijit, are you going to comment on the whole American journey of slavery now? That great journey of
Slavery
this.
अभी थोड़ा we are not going to discuss, maybe बाद में बात करेंगे. अभी तो बाद में और एक कर
Okay, okay.
लेंगे यार, मतलब नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में कर लेंगे, ऐसा
I
बात नहीं है.
apologize.
नाउ
I completely
नो
sidetracked.
नो इट्स अ गुड. अरे अभी
No, no,
अड्डा
no.
थोड़ा
It's
अच्छा हो
important.
रहा है, तो अभी मोनोलॉग की जरूरत नहीं है. मोनोलॉग इज द मोस्ट बोरिंग थिंग.
Okay, by the way,
No,
both of you can
see,
comment
I
on this.
wanted
So,
this lecture series. I wanted this lecture series क्योंकि सारे लोग आके बता सके कि चल क्या रहा है, राइट? क्योंकि इंडिया में we don't talk about Christianism as much as we talk about Islam. दिमाग में बैठा हुआ है, अरे कौन किसी का क्या काट दिया है ना, इसका वो चला गया, गला काट दिया,
when
whatever.
Christianism affects more of our political thought than any other culture.
Exactly, that's the
It affects
point.
everything. My God, it's rampant.
कि तुम देखोगे जैसे वही जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का अगर बात चलता है, राइट, इट इज इम्पोज्ड, राइट, द होल आइडिया ऑफ सेकुलर एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स, वो कहीं
अरे
से लिया गया है.
लोग
और
जानते भी नहीं लोग जानते भी नहीं Marxism has its roots in Christianism.
एग्जैक्टली.
Socialism has its roots in Christianism. Why no one like
एवरीथिंग दैट्स व्हाई यू दैट्स व्हाई आई कॉल इट अब्राहमिज्म. मतलब पूरा एक फ्रेमवर्क है जिसने डिस्टॉर्शन. मैं इसीलिए तो बोला ना अभी, मतलब ये लेक्चर चालू करने से पहले, कि डिड यू हियर इट, वो जो रोडीज वाला जो एग्जांपल दिया
नहीं
कि
yes,
I was not
yes.
there, sorry, I was late.
लेट मी टेल यू दिस अगेन. तो पाकिस्तानी रोडीज होता है एक, आई डोंट नो अगेन उसका नाम पाकिस्तानी रोडीज है कि
On
नहीं,
the
या
edge.
रोडीज है,
On the edge.
The
On the
roadies
edge.
are
व्हाटएवर.
already bad. I can't imagine Pakistani roadies.
पाकिस्तानी रोडीज, राइट, कैन यू इवन इमेजिन. हाँ, क्या नाम है ऋषि उसका?
On the edge.
ऑन द एज,
नाम
अच्छा
रखा
ठीक
है.
है. तो वो पाकिस्तानी
On the
रोडीज
edge.
है वो
वकार
सेम,
जहा. या
मतलब
क्या है?
वो एक डार्क रूम होता है कि वो रघु टाइप एक इंटरव्यूअर बैठा रहता है और दो तीन वैसे लफंगे आके कुछ करके जाते हैं. तो एक एपिसोड में एक बंदा आया तो बोला, मतलब कुछ, मतलब आर यू गोइंग टू परफॉर्म, मतलब कुछ परफॉर्मेंस करके दिखाओ, कुछ गाना वाना आता है तो. बोला सर वो गिटार में ले सकता हूँ. बोला अच्छा गिटार लेके गाना गाएगा तू? बोला नहीं सर, वो गिटार लेके अपने सर पे मार के वो गिटार तोड़ दूंगा मैं. ठीक है, दैट इज परफॉर्मेंस. तो दैट इज अब्राहमिज्म, राइट, कि एक जो नेचुरल एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट है उससे कुछ नेचुरल चीज कर सकते हो, वो नहीं रखना है. कुछ एक वियर्ड सा सबवर्सिव, कुछ परवर्सिव चीज कर देना है, और फिर 1000 सालों से उसका मतलब उसके लिए एक एपोलॉजिस्ट लीनिएज ऑफ फिलोसोफर्स क्रिएट करना है. तो मैं तो अब्राहमिज्म को इसी तरीके से देखता हूँ.
So, Vijita, I wanted to ask you this. Ananda bhi hai, and Vimash Dada can also comment on it. So, while I was reading about when you said na कि वो equality पे बहुत बोलते हैं, like equality is a Christian value and so on. So I was reading then कि some of the like Doug Wilson एक है ना बहुत radical Christian है
हाँ
अमेरिका
हाँ
का. He is I think the pastor of Pete Hegseth. I guess. He said this, we derive this value from second commandment of Jesus, कि love thy neighbor as yourself. Yeah, ऐसा कुछ है, I think. I'm phrase मतलब गलत है. So he says that the neighbor is supposed to be a Christian. Like the neighbor was thought to be Jew in Old Testament.
Right.
So the love thy neighbor as yourself. So वो equality as in brotherhood, वो brotherhood of belief, वो faith का जो
Exactly.
brotherhood है,
Umma.
in that we have equality. Yeah.
Right.
So he was like arguing that how can we extend that to like pagans and atheists and so forth. ये तो हो नहीं सकता, ये कैसे होगा? Like this doesn't make sense. So when you were talking about equality, that came to my mind. I would like your comment and all of your
Right.
comments actually.
नहीं मतलब इसमें आर्ग्यू क्या करना है यार, ये तो मतलब ऑब्वियस है. इसमें और एक कोट पढ़ देता हूँ मैं. So this is again Immanuel Kant, right? So Immanuel Kant is writing. So he wrote that the black color of a Negro carpenter proved the stupidity of whatever he said, and that the difference in the mental faculties of the whites and blacks was as large as the difference in their colors. On the Hindus, he was of the view that they were superior to the Negroes because they could be educated, but only in the arts and not in the sciences and other subjects that required powers of abstraction. Forget about our scientific astronomical achievement. अगर पाणिनि का अष्टाध्यायी ही पढ़ लेता तो भी इतना ये कमेंट करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ता. ठीक है, बट एनीवे ठीक है.
अरे अद्वैता, फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ अद्वैता पढ़ लेता भाई, वही abstraction है. The observer, the observed, वही abstraction है ये.
हाँ सही में यार, मतलब दृष्टा की दृष्टा बन जाए, उससे ज्यादा बड़ा एब्स्ट्रैक्शन क्या हो सकता है? तो दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा एब्स्ट्रैक्शन है कि
No,
ट्राई
but
टू सी इवन योर माइंड. मतलब इससे ज्यादा एब्स्ट्रैक्शन क्या हो सकता है?
so this comment about the neighbor, right? It's a very interesting framing. So if you look at all, even I know I have some Jewish friends, and I appreciate the Jewish people. But if you look at even Judaism fundamentally sees the neighbor, the friendly neighbor is as a Jew, right? Because their reformation came via the conquest or the the, the physical violence of taking David, right? They were if you look at it, in essence, they were first polytheistic group people, and then through Reformation they decided only one God, and then they imposed it on all the tribes, all the Jewish tribes. Like, it literally was they were forced to be monotheistic, right?
Right.
So from that point itself, the neighbor is the one who's your partner, who's your brother in terms of their brother in religion or brother in belief. It is what is happening is when they come to the modern world and they find more cultures beyond their religion, and they have to justify allowing them to stay peacefully and trade. Remember, trade also plays a big role in this, right? How do you justify
Toleration.
trading?
That's why they're
Correct.
talking about toleration, right? Yeah.
Correct. How do you justify trade and working with these communities when your theology tells they are not part of your brotherhood, right? So then you modify that framing by saying brotherhood of man, not brotherhood of brother, means your religious brother.
Right.
That is what they've been doing. That's historically how they keep changing the goalpost. This was been done by Christians. Now they have resolved that problem because now they don't completely ignore those old books because it's all changed. And now Muslims are doing the same thing because fundamentally, again, Muslims do the same thing. They didn't see brotherhood of man, because if brotherhood of man existed, then the conquest of the Islamic nations was not required. Because all you do is just, your brother, you're my brother, we follow the same. And why would they fight other people of the book? The same prophets
That's
they
why
accept.
we need to dismantle this wholesale
Correct.
Abrahamism. We have to dismiss it
First,
wholesale.
but before we
Destroy it.
dismantle wholesale, we dismantle the fundamental premises. The fundamental premises, and this is what lots of people
No,
apologetics do.
see, you are talking about fundamental premises, but they also don't exist. You have to understand. Their
Like,
fundamental premises are their
of today,
historicity.
I'm saying
Yeah.
fundamental premises of today. You
तो
use
वो
the
तो change हो
historicity
जाएगा
to
ना.
destroy.
When you try to catch the मुंडी या फिर whatever क्या गला, वो अपने आप को change कर लेगा ना. Their fundamental premises are their historicity and historiocentricity कि there was a Jesus. उस पे बार बार उस पे वार करते जाओ. कि जीसस कौन था ही नहीं,
That
कॉन्टेम्पोररी
I
रिकॉर्ड
agree.
नहीं,
That also I agree. That
राइट।
also.
और इस्लाम के लिए उनका एक सेंट्रल पीस ऑफ एक मैन है, जितना भी मुश्किल हो, क्योंकि वो उसे इसलिए गिरने नहीं देता। नुपुर शर्मा जो इंसिडेंट
Yes,
हुआ,
yes,
वो
yes,
इसलिए
yes.
गिरने नहीं देता क्योंकि वो एक आइकन अगर गिर गया तो पूरा
हाँ,
इस्लाम खत्म हो
सब कुछ गया यार, सब
गया।
कुछ गया.
हाँ, सो दे अंडरस्टैंड देयर फंडामेंटल प्रीमाइसेस वेरी वेल,
तो देख
ठीक है।
इतना कितने ईयर से प्रैक्टिस है भाई.
हाँ, इतने दिनों से, मतलब दे हैव मास्टर्ड इट, राइट, द होल आर्ट। और 70 साल 80 साल पहले, 100 साल पहले 1930s में इसके नाम, इनके व्हाटएवर नाम पे जितना रिस्पांस मिलता था, जो वायलेंट रिस्पांस मिलता था, अभी भी उतना ही वायलेंट रिस्पांस मिलता है,
No, but
वो कोई
that's my
भी
point.
कंट्री में।
Arey, but this is very interesting. If you look at early, like this, I think late Arabic Islam, or this is after the first wave of conquest, and then Islam dies off for 300 years, right? And then
Right.
it is slowly coming. It's coming back again, but it's coming back in a very, like, a very neutral, not a very, because it's moved to Persia by that time, by that point. And in Persia, a lot of atheists, so-called framers, who call them Muslim, and they frequently criticize the Prophet. You could see so many. They make
Right,
comments.
right,
He's very tangentially, though they won't mention him. They'll mention that
right.
these ideas are foolish or these thoughts are dumb. Like they literally will
अकबर ने
say
किया है
that.
भाई, अकबर ने
Hmm?
किया है, हमारा जो बादशाह है अकबर, अकबर ने किया है।
But my point is again this fundamental, not fundamentalization, starts again from the Turks. So again it's going through waves, right? It goes through waves of this stuff. So the challenge is, when do you catch the wave at the right point to do the targeting. You don't do it at the highest point, because highest point requires most amount of manpower. At the lowest point, you have least amount of manpower, you can do more damage.
नहीं, ये कमेंट्स काफी सारे आ रहे थे, रेट्रो से आ रहा था, which was very funny, कि अगर इन्होंने इतनी Jesus was black, if Emmanuel Kant knew Jesus was black, वो खुद को गोली मार लेता भाई, बर्बाद कर देता।
I think they didn't even know that the Arabic numerals were Hindu numerals. They didn't know that much of the stuff that they got from India was was from Arabia, was coming through India and China. It's only after
मैं
they
नंबर
left.
फाइल फॉलो करता हूँ, नंबर फाइल में रिसेंटली एक अच्छा एपिसोड आया है, they are recognizing the calculus and all these things, which is a good thing.
But my point is that the reason why they didn't recognize earlier is because we didn't say anything. And fundamentally, our fault is that we don't speak up. And when we speak up and we find opposition, we sit back down. No, don't sit back down. Say, you sit down. Tu baith ja. Like, fundamentally, what problem? For example, Sanjeev Sanyal has been talking about the history of the centrality of Indian culture or Hindu culture in ancient world for some time, but it required Mr. Dalrymple to start doing a wave of move, like sitting all over the world, and India के बारे में कोई बात नहीं कर रहा था. If Dalrymple was honest, he'd say there were my fellow people who were talking about it.
Exactly.
और आपने उनको सुना नहीं, मुझे एक गोरे बंदे को बैठा के आप सुन रहे हैं.
अरे हमसे लिटरली रेफरेंसेस कॉपी करके हमारे रेफरेंस डाल नहीं रहा है.
Oh no, he goes on telling leftists, oh, the white man oppressed the brown man. अबे तू तो acknowledge कर, तू brown लोगों से ले रहा है references, वो भी नहीं कर रहा भाई. स्मार्ट गए, कैसे स्मार्ट है ना वो, जाके विक्टिम खेल करेंगे. I align with all the oppressed people, brown people, oppressed people, but ये बंदा acknowledge करेगा वो किसी और ने काम किया है, उनको acknowledge करना है. अगर हम जाएंगे कि कोई अमेरिकन यूनिवर्सिटी में और कोई यूनिवर्सिटी वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सिटी में और जाके एक भी कोटेशन डालेंगे विदाउट प्रॉपर एक्नॉलेजमेंट, वो बाहर किक अस आउट ऑफ द यूनिवर्सिटी, रिफेल करके पी आउट करेंगे. ये लोग तो अग्लाज ही नहीं करते भाई.
नहीं वही ना. एक बार इन्होंने कहा था, अपना विश्वनाथ क्रिकेट टीम में जब ग्रेग चैपल को लाने की बात चल रहा था, तो गांगुली ने ग्रेग चैपल को लाया. उससे पहले गुंडापा विश्वनाथ थे शायद, मतलब कोचिंग के लिए उन्होंने भी मतलब ही अप्लाइड. ही सेड कि यार मुझे तो फेयर एंड लवली फिर लगाना पड़ेगा अगर मुझे गोरा होना है, मतलब अदरवाइज तो आजकल इंडियन टीम का मैं कोच नहीं बन सकता. अभी तो एटीट्यूड बदल गया है, बट एक जमाने में ये भी हमने देखा है कि इंडियन कोच तो भाई नहीं चलेगा, कपिल देव नहीं चलेगा,
अरे
बिग जैपल
अरे
चलेगा।
हमारे हमारे कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में भी यही प्रॉब्लम है।
हाँ
कोई इंडियन कुछ आइडिया वॉलंटियर करेगा, है ना,
right.
गोरा गोरा आइडिया वॉलंटियर करेगा, वो गोरे को देखेंगे, गोरे ने बोला इसलिए
मैं
देखेंगे।
ये यहाँ के अपने लोगों को समझा समझा के मैं थक गया हूँ एक बात, कि भाई एक साथ काम करते हैं, वो गोरा डिवाइड कर रहा है भाई, उसका कुत्ता बनने से फायदा नहीं है। यू जस्ट मतलब स्टे इन ए टीम, यू डिलीवर मोर वर्क टुगेदर,
या
और फिर उसका जो हायर मैनेजमेंट है उसका नजर में आ जाएगा। उन वहां का जो जॉब बैठा हुआ है ना लंदन में, कोई भी अगर हार्ड को जो कौन बैठा हुआ है, उसका तो रिटायरमेंट का टाइम आ रहा है ना भाई, तो
या
इधर तो किसी ना किसी को हायर करेगा। तो वो मौका ढूंढ, उसके मतलब चप्पल चाटने से अच्छा है यू टेक द अपॉर्चुनिटी, कि वो जब जाए, वो उसका जो टीम है, उसका जो डिवीजन है वहाँ, वो यहाँ पे खुले। इतना कोई सोच नहीं सकता, मतलब इंडियंस आर सो क्लोज नाउ इन देयर ब्रेन, वो इतना देख नहीं सकता कि भाई यहाँ पे टीम बैठा लेंगे ना तो वो उससे सस्ते में काम करेंगे और एक इम्पोर्टेंस आ जाएगा ना अपनी कंपनी के लिए। इतना समझाने के लिए मतलब पसीना बहाना पड़ता कि भाई तू उसके चमचेदारी मत कर, वो कोई नहीं
मत
है,
कर।
इधर तेरा ब्रो बैठा हुआ है, तो ब्रो की बात सुन।
My problem is there are a lot of these people who go around talking with meritocracy.
आई हैव सीन
Well,
वन मोर ट्रेंड इन यूएस, आई एम टेलिंग यू।
hmm,
ये जो अपने ग्रुप के बंदे होते थे, मेरा रूममेट भी था एक, वो 4 रूममेट हैं, वो एक बंदा गोरों के साथ जाके बाकी 3 रूममेट का मजाक उड़ाए। मैं कहा तुझे कौन अभी मतलब बचाएगा कौन, यहाँ पे कुछ हो गया अगर, तू वहां जाके आज मेरे बारे में बोल रहा है, कल ये दूसरे मेरा जो रूममेट है उसके बारे में बोल रहा है, तो तू इंडियन है ना, तेरा तो ये सब काम करने की जरूरत नहीं है। वो अगर जोक मार रहा है तो पास कर देना, वो रेसिप्रोकेट क्यों कर रहा है। और
yeah.
जबकि गोरे बोल रहे थे, गोरे उसे समझा रहे थे कि भाई अपने रूममेट के बारे में ऐसे तू कैसे बोल सकता है, दे वर बीइंग सरप्राइज्ड कि भाई ये बंदा कर क्या रहा है। लेकिन उसको वो समझ में नहीं, उसके हिसाब से कि उससे गोरा बनना था इन अ वे, राइट। तो बाद में थोड़ा बहुत समझ में आ गया, लेकिन क्योंकि उसे गोरा बनना था तो इसीलिए उसको वो चपलूसी करना था। इट वाज मतलब ये बार बार होता रहता है, ये बार बार एक्सप्लिसिटली समझाना पड़ता है कि भाई यहाँ पे जो चल रहा है ना, यहाँ पे एक गैंग वॉर चल रहा है, उधर एक गैंग बैठा हुआ है जिसको बचपन से पढ़ाया गया है कि एक्ट लाइक ए गैंग, तो वो
Hmm.
गैंगस्टर की तरह एटीट्यूड रख रहा है। वो काम कम करके भी बिकॉज ही इज बीइंग पार्ट ऑफ द गैंग वो तुझे उल्लू बना रहा
That is fundamentally the problem. We
है।
are choosing between a binary. We're choosing whether the white savior from the right wing side or the white savior from the left wing side.
एग्जैक्टली।
नहीं चाहिए
मैं
कोई सेवियर भाई, हम अपना ओन
रामास्वामी
सेवियर
राइट,
बनेंगे।
आजकल ब्लैक लोग मजे ले रहे हैं कि रामास्वामी क्या हुआ, तुम
Seriously.
गोरे इनके साथ दिए थे ना, व्हाइट क्रिश्चियन नेशनलिस्ट के साथ देके
No, but
ब्लैक लोगों को।
I will give him some, I'll give some credit. He didn't technically say मैं आपके साथ हूँ। उसने बोला from his perspective he said our values align. He never lied about his values. Okay, you have to be
तो
very clear.
उसने बोला कि जुडियो क्रिश्चियन वैल्यू ये वो, राइट, सो बेसिकली ही वाज प्रमोटिंग द गोरा वैल्यू ना,
No, but
कि आई
no,
एम
no, no.
पार्ट ऑफ यू, मतलब मी विवेक रामास्वामी वी कैन गैंग अप विद द व्हाइट नेशनलिस्ट ऑफ यूएस।
Because he's a politician. He's
दैट्स
not. He's not a
एंड
philosopher.
एंड आई नो इट फॉर ए फैक्ट कि यूएस में जितने सारे हिंदू बैठे हुए हैं, उनका ये जो रिपब्लिकन व्हाइट का पैर चाटना है, उसके पीछे 2 थियोरी आता है। एक है कि डाइवर्सिफिकेशन विच इज बीइंग प्रोमोटेड बाय राजीव मल्होत्रा जी, कि भाई बास्केट को जैसे ज्यूस
Hmm.
लोग बोलते थे
Yeah, yeah,
कि
yeah.
भाई दोनों तरफ रखते हैं ताकि अगर कोई पार्टी चला भी जाए, अगर
Political
रिपब्लिकन भी
leverage.
आ
Yeah.
जाए,
Yeah.
इसराइल को सपोर्ट मिले। उसको फॉलो करके फिर अमेरिकन हिंदू संगठनों ने क्या बनाया कि ठीक है रिपब्लिकन में भी हम लोग पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे। दूसरा पॉइंट जो है, इट इज एक्चुअली वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट, इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द वेरी डीप सीडेड इनहेरेंट रेसिज्म ऑफ द हिंदूज टुवर्ड्स द ब्लैक, जो गांधी ने भी किया था कि हम वी कैनॉट आइडेंटिफाई, वी शुड नॉट एंड वी डू नॉट आइडेंटिफाई विद द ब्लैक्स
I don't
बिकॉज
think it's
वो काले
racism, but
हैं।
I don't think.
हाँ
I think.
लेकिन हम लोग वी कैन एस्पायर टू बी अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ व्हाइट, ये जो
Yeah.
एटीट्यूड है।
No, but that is like I think even what's the name?
बट
Niranjan makes it very
मतलब
clear. There's no incentive.
The only historic fact which is common between black and the Hindus is that they both were enslaved, colonized, genocided, and ridiculed for centuries. So
No, but
black and Hindus they form natural ally, and India
no, but
should
that
understand it.
is only true in some places. So, for example, you take it the Caribbean. Thomas Sowell documents this very well. In the Caribbean, we were not natural allies. They were the so-called upper class, and we were the lower class in the Caribbean because
नहीं
we
कैरिबियन
were
मैं
used for.
यूएस के बात कर रहा हूँ यूएस नहीं सी कैरिबियन में भी क्या हुआ था स्लेव ट्रेड के थ्रू दोनों पार्टी गए थे ना अब हिंदुओं का पावर नहीं है पॉलिटिकल पावर नहीं है फिजिकल पावर तो वो ऐसे रह गए
No, but they
यूएस
were the
में क्या
ones
है
working the farms. They were the ones
हाँ
working. Indians were the ones working the farms. The blacks were in the cities and
मैं
enjoying
फिर
the
से यूएस
cultural
को बोल रहा
capital.
हूँ यूएस
US.
के स्ट्रक्चर में हिंदुओं का एक अच्छा खासा एक मतलब स्टेटस है सो दैट्स व्हाई दे थिंक कि भाई हम लोग तो क्योंकि हमारे पास अब ज्यादा पैसा आ गया है वी कैन नॉट बी नेचुरली अलाइव विद द ब्लैक बट मैं बोल रहा हूँ इन टर्म्स ऑफ इफ यू वांट टू डू गुड पॉलिटिक्स यू अलाइव विद द ब्लैक्स बिकॉज यू गाइज आर द नेचुरली अलाइज ठीक है
No,
पिछला कमेंट क्या था बुद्धिज्म को लेके
which one? Oh, Dalrymple के बारे में. No, I think
Yes,
it's a little bit more complex in the American system in terms of politics. We have to create our own lane. Our own lane. Like the Filipinos have
Exactly.
created their own lane. Indians have to create their own lane.
Right.
It's very good. Japanese have created their own lane. Indians have to create their own, especially Hindus have to create their own lane. They cannot be left or right. And I'm glad because my biggest criticism of Hindu American society, Hindu HAF, Hindu American Foundation, was they took the democratic lane. They should have not stayed stuck. They finally rejected this dichotomy of left versus right, and they said they've created their own lane. This is what they need to do. They need to create their own lane and do activism from the perspective of the community, not from the perspective of politics.
Exactly.
That's the only way it's going to work.
Exactly.
So
हिंदू इंडिया में भी वही कर रहा है ना हिंदू इंडिया में भी वही कर रहा है कि बीजेपी के चमचेदारी कर अरे बीजेपी क्या कर रहे हैं क्या फर्क पड़ता है
Yeah.
You talk about philosophy. You talk about the fundamental structure and the superstructures that are there. वो बीजेपी अपने आप लाइन में आ जाएगा तुम बोल रहे हो मोदी करके हिंदू हृदय सम्राट जरूरी नहीं है भाई
जरूरी नहीं है सबको मोदी के आइडिया में फ्रेम करना है and that's another problem I have with the current politics. It's like there's something is not even related to मोदी के perspective से फ्रेम करना है. It suits the opposition, it suits the BJP, both को सूट करता है. ये मोदी के फ्रेम में करना है. It's not everything is not about Modi. Something is about a cultural discussion that goes beyond Modi ji. You know, to me that is
और यूएस यूरोप में अगर हिंदू वो सुपर स्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट करना चाहता है सो वो पेगनिज्म के थ्रू कर सकता है मतलब जो टिपिकल आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि ये जो नेचुरल मोरालिटी है जिसको मैं पेगनिज्म बोल रहा हूं स्लॉपी
कर भी रहे हैं
हां सो अलाइन योरसेल्फ विद द यूरोपियन एंड अमेरिकन पेगनिज्म और वो पेगनिज्म और नेचुरल मोरालिटी को बढ़ाओ और लोगों के पास अपना गॉस्पेल पहुंचाओ
उसका नाम क्या है एक इंडिक ग्रुप है जो it works with Greek pagans druids वो उनके साथ वर्क कर रहा है to bring back their traditions. हो रहा है
actually. You are talking about Project Kailash.
नहीं इंडिक समथिंग एक मिनट अरे उनका
there is a Project Kailash where in North America specifically, so you have 6 Buddhists, Hindus, Jains all coming together. Yeah, so this Dalrymple shenanigans, correct? So, like, how shameless people are. I literally sometimes think, like, are we doing something wrong by being honest? I literally think that, correct, there is no incentive to be honest with yourself or with the others. How shameless a person can be. See, this Dalrymple guy, you have this correct comment. Dalrymple has suddenly discovered Buddhism as India's greatest export after building a career on medieval dark ages of Hindu genocide as the best thing that India had seen. He was 5 years ago, he was telling that the Mughals were the greatest rulers of India. Whatever Indian culture we have is because of Mughals. Everything is Mughal and Mughal. Now
Again,
he's gone. Yeah, go ahead.
there is a reason why this happened, because again, understand the way academia in India worked was it worked through patronage, not through research. So, for example, you didn't study because you studied. You studied because someone patronized a particular topic and you just research on that topic, right? You didn't study because you're interested in something. He studied Mughal India because there was money in Mughal India. Like he makes jokes about his wife said, "You're writing another book about Mughals." Because there was money, keep coming. Oh, you write another book about Mughal, write another book about Mughal, write about book of Mughal. She kept writing on that.
Wait. I understand that, but correct. You have Abbas Maldiya writing a book on Mughals, correct? So how come Abbas Maldiya can find something which he cannot find?
That's what I'm saying. No, that's the biggest criticism of
It
people like
means
Alexander is that
it means he's not doing any research. He's just taking money and writing whatever he's told. That's
no,
simple. And
he's definitely doing research. He's definitely doing research. But I'm saying his research
what
is
research
focused
he's
on his
doing?
he did a lot of interesting research on the Mughals. For example, a lot of the things
No, no.
about the structures he's clearly mentioned about everything about the Mughals. He didn't hide
What?
anything. Anyway,
What? No, no. See, if I am writing about Mughals, and if I am not writing about the atrocities, the skulls, mountain of skulls that Mughals have created, then what research I am doing?
your patron
No,
won't give you
that's the
money then.
point. So they get
Exactly,
initially no.
exactly. I'm talking
Initially they
about.
were
Na, so he is
funded.
not doing research.
Initially they were funded for writing, for example, Mughal economics. Now, when Irfan Habib is writing Mughal economics, what Alauddin Khilji, for example, so he is not writing about कि he said कि अच्छा अलाउद्दीन खिलजी ने राशनिंग चालू किया था. नाउ अगर इस तरह से अगर हिस्ट्री लिखते हो तो तुम क्या छुपाते हो? व्हाट यू आर हाइडिंग इज लाइक अलाउद्दीन खिलजी मतलब जो किसानों से इतना ज्यादा मतलब लगभग सारा जो ग्रेन है फूड ग्रेन है वो कलेक्ट करके डालना चालू किया था कि आई थिंक उसके 12 या 17 साल बाद आई थिंक एक दूसरा ये आया था अपना अरब या टर्क से एक पर्यटक आया था जिसको ये दिख गया था कि अलाउद्दीन खिलजी कब तक मर चुके हैं 15-20 साल हो गया है तो उसने जो ग्रेन कलेक्ट किया था वो अभी भी भंडार में मौजूद है और लोग इधर फेमिन में मर रहे हैं सो मतलब लिखो हाँ तो लिखो और ऐसे लिखो कि यू राइट द हाफ ट्रूथ you ignore certain facts you don't
Yep.
write about the sort of the policy that guided those sort of economic structures किस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से वो बंदा चीजों को बना रहा है उसको मत दिखा ये जावेद अख्तर भी बोलता रहता है कि आपको पता करना है कि लगाना है कि अलाउद्दीन खिलजी ने क्या किया था राइट मतलब वो बोलता है ना अलाउद्दीन खिलजी का भी उसने बोला था तो हुआ तो ये था ना कि अलाउद्दीन खिलजी इतना एट्रोशियस था कि वो हिंदुओं से खाना छीन लेता था ताकि इसको कन्वर्ट होना पड़े ताकि इसके घर की लड़कियों को अपने सुल्तान के वहां बैठक खाना में आना पड़े और नाचना पड़े देयर पॉलिसी वाज कि हिंदू जो लड़कियां हैं उनको ये नचनिया बना दो दैट वाज लिटरली द पॉलिसी ऑफ खिलजी लेकिन वो नहीं बोलेगा बोले नहीं अलाउद्दीन खिलजी ने राशनिंग चालू किया था और पता नहीं क्या क्या मुद्रा चालू किया था वो किया था सो दे ट्राई टू talk about economic policy so that we don't get to know what was actually going on what sort of matlab cultish thing was going on that led to 1000 years again 800 year of Gana Sanghar right
No, but another interesting thing you'll observe when Europeans wrote Roman history, right? They wrote Roman history in detail. Means they wrote about which colonies were held directly. They wrote about which colonies rebelled regularly. They wrote about which parts the Romans could barely hold. They wrote about the genocide of Romans by invaders. Everything they wrote. They wrote about the Romans genociding invaders. Everyone they wrote. Everything they wrote. But if you look at India, when you read Mughal history, even Mughal history took so many years to write. They do
right
not acknowledge that the Mughals barely held territory. They kept
right
losing it.
right
This narrative that all the many Indian Muslims keep believing, oh, हमने राज किया है आप पर, भूल जाते हैं कि Mughals, it is epic and flowing. हर
Right.
बार कॉन्कर करते थे, हर बार 10 साल में अगेन दैट प्लेस विल रिबेल एंड वापस लूज कंट्रोल, वापस आ जाते, वापस इन्वेड करते रहते नॉन स्टॉप. इफ यू ऑब्जर्व वेरी इंटरेस्टिंगली, बिलो द लाइन ऑफ एमपी के थोड़े नीचे से, फ्रॉम एमपी a little lower, they barely held the territory. They kept
हाँ.
losing it every few years. They kept losing the territory. The
Yes.
Nawabs of the
और
region were the
जब
ones
आया
running the
तब
territory.
और जब आया तब गाड़ दिया, शिवाजी ने गाड़ दिया बेसिकली.
I
एक
know,
बार
forget
आया.
about Shivaji.
हाँ.
For Shivaji was the last one. Before that also, non-stop Hindu kings were kicking them out.
नहीं
वो
नहीं,
एक
एक
होता ना,
एक ही मुगल किंग आया ना जो इतना नीचे आया कि डेक्कन तक जाके देखते हैं,
अरे
अदर
वो
ये
भी
चल जाते हैं.
आया और चला गया. He couldn't do anything
वही
beyond
तो
that.
बोल रहा हूँ, उसको गाड़ दिया, खत्म कर दिया उसे. एक ही बंदा आया था. एंड दैट एक्चुअली वो वापस नहीं, दिल्ली ही नहीं जा पाया. तो दिल्ली में
और
पता नहीं
और
चल रहा है
और
कि औरंगजेब इधर मर गया है.
और
बेसिकली
उनको
ये चल रहा
टेरिटरी भी
है.
देखो, उनका टेरिटरी भी देखो. वो आर्मी भेजते थे, मेनी हिंदू किंग्स लाइक हाँ आ जाइए, वो आर्मी छोड़ देते थे, एक दो साल ट्रिब्यूट देते थे, कैंसिल कर देते ट्रिब्यूट्स के बाद.
राइट.
वापस आर्मी को आना पड़ता था हर बार. हेलो
ये एक अच्छा
आप
क्वेश्चन है. This is a good question.
Okay.
If Iranian
Yes, yes.
Muslims can acknowledge these atrocities by Arabs and Turks that led to their forces and conversion, then why can't we? And how can we be so deracinated? See,
ईरानी
ईरान में क्या
मुस्लिम्स
हुआ?
करते हैं,
हाँ.
ईरानी मुस्लिम्स एक्नॉलेज करते हैं कि ईरान क्रिश्चियंस एक्नॉलेज
No,
करते
no,
हैं.
they will
No, no, no.
acknowledge. They will acknowledge because see, Iranian Muslim. First of all, they are Shia Muslim. So just by claiming this, they claim the Shia victimhood politics.
हाँ,
कि
अली के नाम पर.
कि जो ये किया था, ये एक्चुअली हमारे ऊपर तो अत्याचार हुआ था, हम तो पैगंबर के लीनियज से आते हैं. सो वहां पे जो है वो तो पूरा कन्वर्ट हो गया. अब वहां पे जो जो फैक्शनल जो स्ट्रगल होता है, जो जंग चलता रहता है कबीले के बीच, वो उधर चल रहा है. यहाँ पे एक्नॉलेज इसलिए नहीं करते क्योंकि फिर जो 5% 10% अशराफ है इंडिया में, जो एक्चुअली पूरा इंडियन मुस्लिम पॉलिटिकल नैरेटिव को पूरा ही कंट्रोल करता है, वो खोने का डर होगा. सी, ये जो अशराफ जो अरब और टर्क से इंडिया आए थे, तो उनका तो जो पुण्य भूमि है, कोट अनकोट, इफ पुण्य इज अ वर्ड दैट कैन बी अप्लाइड टू इस्लामिज्म, तो उनका जो पुण्य भूमि है वो तो मक्का मदीना और टर्क वहाँ ऑटोमन एम्पायर की उधर है.
No, but ये वो वाला
तो
टर्क भी नहीं है.
नो,
ये
लेट मी
वो वाला
कंप्लीट.
टर्क भी नहीं
वो
है.
वाला टर्क भी नहीं है.
ये सेंट्रल
मैं बोल
एशियन
रहा हूँ,
टर्क है.
एटलीस्ट बोलते हैं ना कि वी आर महमूद द टू जो है, वो जिस तरह से इस्तांबुल को कब्जा किए थे, हम लोग फिर से दिल्ली में कब्जा करेंगे. दैट इज देयर एटीट्यूड ना, कि उनके लिए जो पुण्य भूमि है वो एक हिसाब से इस्तांबुल है, क्योंकि वहां महमूद द सेकंड ने वो जो हाया सोफिया उस
खलीफा.
पर कब्जा किया. हाँ. ना द पॉइंट इज, इसलिए क्योंकि ये पुण्य भूमि नहीं है, इसलिए यहाँ का जो स्ट्रगल है, अशराफी जो स्ट्रगल है, वो एक्चुअली पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रगल है. इसमें कहीं पे भी मतलब रिलीजियसिटी बहुत कम है. एंड दे कैन नॉट एक्नॉलेज दिस थिंग, क्योंकि फिर अशराफ को फिर पसमानदा पूछने लगेगा, कि पसमानदा बोलने लगेगा कि हमारे साथ तो डबल जेनोसाइड हुआ है. हिंदुओं का आपने फिजिकल जेनोसाइड किया है कि, लेकिन हिंदुओं का कल्चर अभी भी इंटैक्ट है, वो लोग जो मना रहे हैं मना पा रहे हैं. पसमानदा का फिजिकल जेनोसाइड हुआ और कल्चरल जेनोसाइड हुआ. सो सो ऑब्वियसली अशराफ इंडिया में 5 से 10% है, और वो इसी डर से जीते हैं, और इसी डर से वो पसमानदाओं को कंट्रोल करके रखते हैं. तो इसलिए ये सब
पसमंदा
बात
का
नहीं करते.
आइडेंटिटी ही नहीं है. पसमंदा का आइडेंटिटी ही नहीं है. दे आर फंडामेंटली पीपल विथ नो कोर आइडेंटिटी.
रिप्रेजेंटेशन. हाँ.
नहीं, आइडेंटिटी नहीं है. उनका कल्चर
Identity
क्या है?
right,
If
right.
example, you take away the local, so lot
They
of
don't
the
know, they don't know about their own holy scripture. मतलब वो जो
वही तो
कुरान
बोल,
लिखा है उसका लैंग्वेज भी पता
forget
नहीं
about
उसे.
holy scripture. What is the
उर्दू भी
first
हिंदी
way
में
of?
पढ़ते हैं. उर्दू
अरे
का
एक
जो
मिनट,
स्क्रिप्चर है वो हिंदू है, मतलब हिंदी
लेट्स
है.
कम दैट लेटर. मैं आपको स्टेप बाय स्टेप जाता हूँ कैसे उनका कल्चरल जेनोसाइड हुआ है, आइडेंटिटी का डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ है. राइट. उनका पहले
Right.
जब वो कन्वर्ट हुए थे, उनका कन्वर्ट हुए थे, दे कन्वर्टेड फ्रॉम सर्टेन ट्राइब्स और कम्युनिटीज. राइट. जब कन्वर्ट हुए थे पहले, इन द बिगिनिंग दे वर कन्वर्टेड जस्ट बाय, आप कलमा पढ़ो हो गया, आप अपना ट्रेडिशंस कंटिन्यू करो. Right. Then then this wave of Salafization came. They rejected that identity. उनका local cultural traditions जो थे वो reject कर दिए उन्होंने to get to the larger group. Right.
Right.
उसके बाद अब उनको लाइक दे नॉट इवन जेनेटिकली और फ्रेमवर्क कर रहे बोलते हैं कि आप उम्मा के ग्रुप हो, but at the same time suddenly they start realizing that the Arabic Muslims or Turkic Muslims, African Muslims उनसे जमते नहीं है, उनको बोलते हैं आप
Because
कन्वर्टेड
these
हो,
are
आप हमारे
अजमी है ना, ये लोग अजमी है, they are
करेक्ट।
not अरबी, they are अजमी।
सो अब वो भी नहीं है, वो यूनिफाइड आइडेंटिटी, इस्लामिक आइडेंटिटी भी नहीं है। फाइनली जब आप दूसरे कम्युनिटी, आपके ओरिजिनल कम्युनिटी ग्रुप्स देखोगे जो अपने एरिया में है, दे हैव कल्चर, यू हैव नो कल्चर, and you're basically a slave to the ashraf. So it's a triple whammy. उनका देखो triple whammy है उनका, and it is the worst situation for anyone to be in, like the worst situation. यही क्रिश्चियनिटी में यही होता है। what did they do in नॉर्थ ईस्ट में यही किया उन्होंने क्या किया,
वैशाली दी जो बोल रहे हैं ना, इसके थ्रू ये रेफरेंस देते हैं ना, वो भी बांग्लादेशी जो ट्विटर में चल रहा है, बांग्लादेशी जो व्हाट एवर मिस यूनिवर्स और व्हाट एवर जो है, सरस्वती का वो जो पूरा इमेजरी है उसको लेके आगे बढ़ रही है। अरे भाई तुम बुरखा पहन के जाओ ना यार, यू गो टू अ फैशन शो वेयरिंग बुरखा।
अरे forget about that, they think like she's right, they think they're Turkish, they think वो टर्क से आते हैं, बट टेक्निकली उनका जेनेटिक्स वो नहीं है, बट सोचते हैं टर्क से जेनेटिक्स है।
अरे कुछ भी हो, if your culture is burqa na, so wear a burqa and go to that walk on the ramp na, you walk on the ramp wearing burqa।
no, but वो नहीं है उनका कल्चर, वो अरबिक कल्चर है, वही तो बोल रहा हूँ।
बांग्लादेश
उनका
बोलता है कि
कल्चर
इस्लाम है,
जेनोसाइड,
हमारा इस्लाम है, ये है वो है, बोलता है ना कि हमारा अरे बुरखा हिजाब तो इसमें है ना भाई, हिजाब कुरान में है।
नहीं हिजाब नहीं है, बट
नो हिजाब कुरान में है, हिजाब कुरान में है कि
हाँ, बट इंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं।
हिजाब का जो हिजाब किस लिए आया, उसका जो हिस्टोरिकल इंटरप्रिटेशन है वो सही अल बुखारी में है, बट हिजाब की यू मतलब जो लड़के हैं वो अपना नजर नीचे कर ले और लड़कियां जो है वो एक वेल के थ्रू खुद को ढक के रखे, ये तो ये तुम्हारा कल्चर, ये इस्लामिक है ना, तुम बुरखे के थ्रू उसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हो ना, तो बुरखा पहन के जाओ ना भाई, तुम सरस्वती बन के क्यों जा रहे हो? दिस इज योर प्राइड ना, योर प्राइड इज इन कुरान, कि कुरान हमारा ये है वो है पता नहीं क्या है, अल्लाह अकबर है ना, तो तुम वो पहन के जाओ, तुम बुरखा पहन के फैशन शो में जाओ। What kind of, again talking about the schism, what kind of schism is this कि तुम बुरखा पहन के रैंप में वॉक नहीं कर सकते?
अरे वो कर रहे हैं ना, वो बुर्किनी स्विमिंग सूट।
I don't care, schism नहीं होगा ना उसमें कि I believe in this is my identity, I am gonna walk on the ramp। भाई तुम वो हिजाब पहन के तुम कुश्ती लड़ रहे हो, तो फैशन शो भी उसी से कर लो।
They went from tent to seal, टेंट से सील हो गए पानी में, सील जैसे।
No, they don't know what Turks are. They think they're contrary to. Look at this.
अरे वो most people in India do not know what a Turk is. तो Turkic tribes लोग नहीं जानते, because they think Khilji, they think Akbar all look like Indians, but technically they look like Chinese लोग, like
no, Turks also don't know कि who they are। अभी का जो टर्क है उनको भी पता नहीं वो कौन है। अभी मंगोलिया या उज्बेकिस्तान यहाँ से एक बंदा बोल रहा था व्हाई आर यू शोइंग आवर कल्चर, तो मंगोलिया से अभी एक वीडियो तुम हमारे कल्चर को टर्की कल्चर बोल के क्यों चला रहे हो, ठीक है, दे आर वेरी पिस्ड कि भाई व्हाट काइंड ऑफ, तो टर्की का खुद का कल्चर नहीं है भाई।
हाँ, तो
वो कौन सा कल्चर देगा हमें?
टर्की इज वेस्ट एशिया ना, टर्की यहाँ साइड पे है, बेसिकली एशिया माइनर, बियॉन्ड ईरान, इराक, वहाँ साइड पे है। ये वेस्ट एशिया है और ये सेंट्रल एशिया यहाँ है, साइड पे, इस साइड पे है, और दोनों को कंपेयर करते रहते हैं लोग। आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड, ये क्या नॉनसेंस है।
तो टर्क का भी पता नहीं है कि वो कहाँ से आए थे, कहाँ गए थे, क्या किया।
अरे लोग नहीं जानते कि ये अलादीन का स्टोरी चाइना से आया, सब सोचते हैं अरब स्टोरी है ये, लेकिन कैसे लोग हैं भाई, लोग नहीं जानते शहजादा अरब नहीं थी, वो पर्शियन थी, जो 1001 नाइट्स का स्टोरी लिखे हैं।
इस्लाम के कल्चर के नाम पे सिर्फ वो झूठे मतलब वही कहानियां हैं,
सब कंफ्यूज करके रखे। They don't know that half the
सारे
stories in
इवन क्रिश्चियनिज्म और इस्लाम सारे देख लो, जितने स्ट्रक्चर वक्चर आर्ट देख लो, सारे पेगन कल्चर है,
सब
ठीक
कुछ
है,
है।
सारे
वही
नेटिव कल्चर के। ये जितने भी बुक, ये सिर्फ इनको बुक लिखना और स्क्रिप्चर लिखना आता है, इनको आर्ट क्रिएट करना आता नहीं है, प्रोपागेंडा क्रिएट करना आता है, बट एक आर्ट क्रिएट करना वो इस कल्चर को नहीं आता है। मतलब जस्ट इमेजिन किस तरह यूरोप में जो मॉडर्न आर्ट और पेंटिंग किस जगह पे लेके गया। मतलब ठीक है, पिकासो तक सही था, अभी जो एब्सर्डिज्म आ गया है जस्ट टू सेल, कि मैं कुछ मतलब बतूलेबाजी कर दूंगा और एक ब्लैंक कैनवस को बेच दूंगा, या फिर ब्लैंक कैनवस में एक केला चिपका दूंगा,
but
एंड
even
यू आर कॉलिंग इट आर्ट।
even the Enlightenment art, Renaissance art doesn't come from a space of religion. It comes from a space
एग्जैक्टली,
of pagan. क्या बोलते हैं? I don't know how do I explain it. कैसे बोले?
फॉर्म, द वेरी फॉर्म इज पेगन यार,
No,
मतलब
it's a
जिस तरह से बॉडी को
Greco-Roman style of painting. वो भी जब आप वो
जेंटाइल बोलता है ना।
I don't know. उनका टर्मिनोलॉजी मैं जानता नहीं भैया. I don't read
तो
their terminology
दे
much.
दे डोंट हैव, मतलब अभी वही है कि जैसे क्रिश्चियन या फिर इस्लामिक जो बुक है, वो दे विल राइट 1000 पेज जस्ट इन सपोर्ट ऑफ अ लाई। वो उस तरह से फिर मॉडर्न जो आर्ट और स्कल्पचर और पेंटिंग वो उसी तरह चला गया है कि आई विल कीप ए ब्लैंक कैनवस एंड आई विल से 1000 वर्ड्स अबाउट इट, कि व्हाट इट एक्चुअली इज, फिर उसको मैं बेच दूंगा। सो
No, हम भी मिस्टेक करते हैं ना. हम भी मिस्टेक करते हैं. हम लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल टेक ताजमहल. वी से इस्लामिक कंस्ट्रक्शन, इस्लामिक डिजाइन. लाइक नहीं, वो मिक्स है ऑफ सेंट्रल एशियन स्टाइल्स एंड इंडियन स्टाइल्स. वो
अच्छा,
फ्यूजन है.
सेंट्रल एशियन स्टाइल में मैं और एक बात बोल देता हूँ, ये बाबरनामा में है और मैंने अपने बुक में कोट भी किया है। बाबर लिख
सेंट्रल
रहा है
एशियन
कि
एंड इंडियन हिंदू.
नो नो,
लाइक
लेट मी कंप्लीट। बाबर ये लिखता है कि वो जहां से आया था बुखारा समरकंद, तो वहां पे कोई ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर नहीं था। सो व्हाट ही डिड, ही कैप्चर्ड हिंदू आर्टिसंस, enslaved them, and he sent them to बुखारा समरकंद टू मेक दो स्ट्रक्चर जो हमें अभी दिखता है ना बुखारा समरकंद में। तो बुखारा समरकंद का जो स्ट्रक्चर्स है आप दिखा सकते हो भूपेंद्र, वो सारे हिंदू आर्टिसन से बनाया हुआ है, और उसमें कुछ कुछ जगह स्वस्तिका दिख जाएगा आपको, और स्वस्तिका इसीलिए दिखेगा क्योंकि वो हिंदू आर्टिसन काम कर रहे थे, ठीक है। सो इवन मिडिल ईस्ट का जो, एंड वो बाबर लिख रहा है कि इनके आर्टिसन बेहतर है, ये है, आई डोंट, वो ये भी लिख रहा है कि आई डोंट लव इंडिया, बहुत फ्लैट कंट्री है, ये है वो है, बट मैंने इनको कैप्चर किया और मैंने भेजा है ताकि वो उधर स्कल्पचर क्रिएट कर सके, आर्ट आर्ट क्रिएट कर सके, ठीक है। सो जो तुम बोल रहे हो कि बुखारा समरकंद का आर्किटेक्चर टर्की में गया है, बुखारा आर्किटेक्ट समरकंद का आर्किटेक्चर इधर से गया है भाई, बाबर ने भेजा है, ठीक है।
what dome stuff, with all the dome styles and all. Fundamentally, you should understand it's not Islamic in nature. It is the
एग्जैक्टली,
local styles. वो उनका लेके वो बनाते हैं. There's
राजपूत
nothing.
लोग कब से बना रहे हैं,
हाँ,
राजस्थान में
exactly.
राजपूत डोम कब से बना रहा है। बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो मुगल आर्किटेक्चर नाम से बेचा जाता है ना, इट इज एक्चुअली अ मिक्स ऑफ द ईरानियन एंड राजपूत आर्किटेक्चर। राजस्थान जाओगे सारे हिंदू जगह इससे भरा हुआ है,
No, but
इस तरह के आर्किटेक्चर।
all this detailed designs. Huh? This is
ये जो
very
समरकंद का
very
ये जो
Persian thing.
स्ट्रक्चर है, वो जो ऊपर जो दिखा रहे हैं पूरा एरिया, ये सारा हिंदुओं का बनाया हुआ है,
Yeah,
और ये
but very
बाबरनामा में
Persian
लिखा
though.
हुआ है, यू कैन नॉट
Very
डिनाई
Persian
दिस।
though. It's very Persian though. It's very Iraq, Iran, old Sumeria style. ये सब
और
वहाँ होता है.
बट उनको बोला गया होगा कि इस स्टाइल में बनाओ, तो वो बनाए होंगे। द पॉइंट
Yeah,
इज
yeah.
बाबर इज राइटिंग इट इन बाबरनामा तुजुकी बाबरी,
हाँ, but
कि
this
भाई
my
मैंने
fundamental
भेजा
point is
है।
ये इस्लामिक नहीं है. Like उनके बुक्स में कुछ नहीं है इसके.
ये
उनके
लग सकता है इस्लामिक है, दिस इज जस्ट द रीजनल
yes,
natural sort of evolution of their architecture.
exactly.
Islam has nothing to do with it. सीधी सी
उन-
बात है,
उनके बुक में होना चाहिए भाई. अगर ये इतना ये
राइट,
इस्लामिक है तो उनकी बुक में होना चाहिए. ऐसे कट करो,
राइट,
ऐसे कट, कुछ नहीं है भाई.
एग्जैक्टली, एग्जैक्टली, एग्जैक्टली। इनके पास सारे, मतलब ये इट स्टार्टेड, एवरीथिंग स्टार्टेड विद एस्ट्रोनॉमी कैलेंडर, ठीक है। जब
वो स्पिनिंग वाला करते हैं ना. वो बोलते रहते हैं इस्लामिक डांस है. अबे अगर इस्लामिक डांस है तो बाकी बुक्स में नहीं क्यों नहीं है भाई? क्यों नहीं लिखा? ऐसे 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 करना है भगवान के लिए, ऐसे स्पिन करना है. लिखा है कहीं कहीं एक भी बुक में लिखा है नहीं है. वो लोकल ट्रेडिशन से बना है, उसको अडेप्ट करके फिलोसफी रिलीजन के लिए यूज किया है और उसको इस्लामिक बना दिया। लेकिन
टर्की को सिर्फ वो आइसक्रीम बेचना आता है, वैसे घुमा घुमा के।
अरे 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 वो बोलते हैं ओ इस्लामिक साइंस इज अलजेब्रा। अबे
इस्लामिक
मूर्ख,
फूड,
अरे
इस्लामिक
मूर्ख,
फूड है ना।
अरे नहीं, इस्लामिक साइंस है अलजेब्रा। तो ये वेरी मैं वेस्टर्न
बिद्दत
वेस्टर्न
इज
साइंटिस्ट
हराम
भी
इन
बोलते हैं।
इस्लाम।
हाँ?
बिद्दत और इनोवेशन इज हराम इन इस्लाम।
वही तो बोल रहा हूँ, forget about innovation. The reason why you take Al-Khwarizmi, he may be a Muslim in Arabia or in Persia at that time, जब वो ये सब किया था, that doesn't mean he got a source from Islam. He got it from his study, personal, उसका personal interest था ये सब. It's like saying
इट
Abdul
केम फ्रॉम
Kalam is,
नेचुरल मोरालिटी, सीधी सी
it's
बात
like
है।
tomorrow Abdul Kalam को बोलेंगे Islamic rocket scientist. इस्लाम ने
डैश इज
बनाया
हराम इन
रॉकेट,
इस्लाम, राइट राइट।
रॉकेट
डैशिंग इज हराम इन
इस्लाम
इस्लाम।
ने रॉकेट बनाया बिकॉज अब्दुल कलाम वर्कड ऑन रॉकेटरी। ये क्या नॉनसेंस है बड़ी कुछ भी।
No, टीपू सुल्तान also. टीपू सुल्तान पे भी चलता है ये।
अरे
हाँ
बोलते टिप्पू सुल्तान द मुस्लिम्स क्रिएटेड द मैसूर रॉकेट। नहीं भाई, लोकल कारीगर ने किया था मैसूर रॉकेट, आपके इस्लाम से नहीं आया वो मैसूर रॉकेट। Nonsense.
डांसिंग एंड सिंगिंग इन हराम इन इस्लाम,
अरे
जस्ट लाइक एक्टिंग इज हराम इन
that's debatable but okay. नहीं ये
No, no,
नहीं
it
नहीं,
is not
उसका भी
Yeah.
debatable.
उसका भी ये मिल
नो
जाता
इट
है।
इज डिबेटेबल क्योंकि सुन्नी
डिबेटेबल
मुल्ला
क्या है,
लोग
अरे
बहुत
भाई
करते हैं।
उसका हदीद मिल जाता है भाई।
नहीं नहीं,
हदीद इज द
See,
you can
डिबेटेबल थिंग
dance and sing in praise of God, you are allowed to that outside of the
Anand,
divine.
भाई।
Anand,
नहीं है भाई।
Anand. See, whatever is not written in the original book, correct? Everything you can refute because that is the only book which has the truth. So
अरे
if
वो
something is not mentioned in that book, then it doesn't exist. Correct?
ये
Correct.
नो ट्रू स्कॉट्समैन फैलेसी हो जाता है बिकॉज आई फंडामेंटली बिलीव वो बुक भी इनकरेक्ट है बिकॉज 300 इयर्स के
No, no.
बाद वो लिखा गया था। 300 बर्थ 400 के
Whatever
बाद
बात
वो
may
समझाने के
ऑटोमन
लिए
कैलिफेट लिखा
उनको।
उन्होंने लिखा था।
no, 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 no. Whatever may be the case, if to today just for argument's sake, I believe कि
हाँ
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 ठीक है भाई, this is the ultimate book, okay? तो अगर उसमें नहीं है तो बट करेक्ट नहीं है ना।
हाँ हाँ। फिर अगर
Just
अगर
just just
अगर
just
सुन्नी लोग एक्सेप्ट डांस, सुन्नी लोगों को एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ता है कि डांस हराम है इस्लाम। सुन्नी लोग हैव टू एक्सेप्ट इट, दे हैव नो ऑप्शन, उनका तो
exactly because it is not mentioned in the correct in the most holiest book. If it's not mentioned, then it correct it doesn't exist.
करेक्ट करेक्ट। I agree.
Correct because that has answers to everything. So if it's not mentioned there, then it is false.
Correct,
Simple enough.
that's
Which are no need to do a lot of gymnastics.
correct. No, but problem is we don't have only Sunnis in the world. No, we have Shias, we have क्या बोलते हैं सूफीज, वो सब उनको वो भी ऑपोजिशन है सुन्नी के like perspective में. So like you have Bora Muslims. Bora Muslims are not especially Sunni. They are like a unique sect itself. उनका कैसे बोल सकते? We can't tell them ये सब फॉलो करो। वो बोलेंगे नहीं, हम नहीं फॉलो करेंगे, क्या करें इसमें।
See, I have realized in my life, correct, 99% of people have no morality. Somewhere down the line, the only morality we like is something bad that makes a life better.
एनिमल मोरालिटी, वो क्या बोलते हैं, वो सर्वाइवल मोरालिटी वो।
Whatever, yeah, the only morality that exists for everybody in the world, that is 99% of the humanity, is that whatever makes their life better, that they will believe and they will see that's correct.
मत्स्य
Okay,
न्याय।
everything else is something which is it's to and fro. If it helps me do something better, it makes my life better, I will accept it, or else it doesn't exist. खत्म। Yeah, Rishi,
Yeah, एक क्वेश्चन था, so back to
बोलो।
topic.
हाँ हाँ
So Vijita, just a question on Saint Augustine. So Tower of God, उनका एक book है ना? So was that a defense from Saint Augustine to the objections of Roman pagans? Because I've heard that that book was written supposedly because there was huge outcry from the pagans, especially after the Vandal invasion of Rome, I think, and those guys were also Christians by then. So
Right.
I wanted to know
So
about
there
this.
are two things, I
Could you tell
guess.
me?
एक तो उस टाइम पे कुछ क्या कुछ ग्नोस्टिसिज्म ऐसा कुछ चल रहा था, ठीक है। जी के बाद ग्नोस्टिसिज्म या नॉस्टिसिज्म जो भी बोलते हैं। तो उसके खिलाफ ऑगस्टिन को आर्ग्यू करना था कि क्रिश्चियनिटी इज बेटर देन दिस वाइल रिटेनिंग सम ऑफ द ग्नोस्टिक वैल्यूज। दूसरा ये था कि ही वाज ओरिजिन, मतलब इन हिज माइंड ही वाज मोर पेगन देन मेनी रोमन नोबल्स, ठीक है। लेकिन वो उस आर्ग्यूमेंट को, जितना भी उसका पेगन नॉलेज था, उसको फिर विथ ऑल दोज पेगन नॉलेज ही स्टार्टेड टू जस्टिफाई क्रिश्चियनिटी, ठीक है। तो यहीं से उसका सारा स्क्रिप्चर निकला है। और रोमन नोवेल्स शायद काफी लोग उसका ये कह के मजाक भी उड़ाते थे कि तुम तो हमसे ज्यादा मतलब पेगन हो भाई, तो तुम ये सब चीजों को, सुपरस्टिशन को जस्टिफाई क्यों कर रहे हो। सो दिस इज व्हाट आई नो अबाउट दिस वर्क एंड अदर वर्क ऑफ ऑगस्टिन एट दैट टाइम। उसके
Yeah,
बाद
Saint
जैसे
Augustine.
ग्नोस्टिसिज्म हो गया, ग्नोस्टिसिज्म आई थिंक फिर एक हिडन रिलीजन, हिडन कल्ट हो गया। तो आई थिंक यूरोप में अभी भी ग्नोस्टिसिज्म और यूएस में भी चलता है ग्नोस्टिसिज्म, बट दे उनका एक सॉर्ट ऑफ क्लोज सोसाइटी चलता है। दे डोंट, मतलब काफी बोला जाता है कि काफी इन्फ्लुएंशियल लोग हैं यूएस और यूरोप में जो एक्चुअली ग्नोस्टिक है, बट दे ओपनली दे से कि, मतलब इन पब्लिक दे से कि दे आर क्रिश्चियंस। हाँ, आनंद कुछ बोल रहे थे।
No, no,
Yeah,
sir.
Anand is in mute.
थोड़ा
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead,
just
go ahead.
my camera थोड़ा, my battery is a little low, so I'm just turning on camera. नहीं, so Saint Augustine के बारे में, he used the Christian cult for political motives, because he was
हम्म।
seeing that the current pagan religion was not very useful for political control in the Roman Empire. So he understood that it is only this new cult is more what do you call it,
But
useful to
again, this is
control
a
the
Christian
population.
version, by the way.
Hmm?
So this perspective that you are saying itself is a Christian narrative.
It doesn't matter the Christian narrative. It
See,
is
no,
it is
I tell
proving
you one
true.
fact.
He
I
was
tell you one
successful,
fact.
na?
Roman Empire expanded with paganism. Roman
Yeah, of course.
Empire destroyed during the time of Christianism. It is evident in modern time also. It is Christianism that created the rift and all the
Yes, yes,
world wars and other struggles in Europe.
of course.
रोम रोम जितना भी फैला था, उसका वैल्यू तो अपना, उसका पेगन वैल्यू था, ग्रेको रोमन वैल्यू था। उसमें सारे लोग जी रहे थे, एकेडमी चल रहा था, लोग इधर से उधर माइग्रेट कर पा रहे थे। यूरोप को जिसने तोड़ा वो क्रिश्चियनिज्म है, और रोमन एम्पायर को जिसने तोड़ा वो क्रिश्चियनिज्म है।
No, but वो wave में था ना. Again, like I said,
ये
this
तो
wave is
कॉन्स्टेंटाइन के लिए
different.
भी कहा जाता है ना। ऑल द क्रिश्चियन हिस्टोरियन दे राइट कि कॉन्स्टेंटाइन द ग्रेट अडॉप्टेड क्रिश्चियनिटी बिकॉज he wanted to unite this fragmented Rome and all these things, right? अभी भी अगर कभी भी यूएस में फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आता है तो कॉन्स्टेंटाइन द ग्रेट का रेफरेंस लेता है।
Correct, that is true. No,
तो
but
वो तो
lot
वो
of
अगेन वो क्रिश्चियन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है ना।
no, no, but a lot of criticism. People who criticize Constantine also said he didn't actually believe in Christianity. He used only for political purposes. तो
राइट,
वो
उसकी
criticism भी
वजह
है.
से, बट इट इज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ अगेन रिफॉर्म्ड क्रिश्चियन व्यू।
Of course.
वही तो बोल
अरे
रहा हूँ। जो
उनका
जो
रिसर्च, उनके
किंवदंतियां है,
रिसर्चर तो ऐसे ही लिखे थे ना.
किंवदंती ये बोलता है कि दिस गाय कन्वर्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ सम he killed his own wife because
अरे
his wife had some
we don't have
affair with
first
the son and
party
all these things।
evidence ना. See, we don't have first party
फर्स्ट
evidence.
नहीं,
Everything is from.
बात ये है कि ये किंवदंती है, किंवदंती शायद काफी हद तक सच हो सकता है, ये किंवदंती फैलता है उसको। और ये फैला, मतलब जस्ट इमेजिन, ये किंवदंती रह गया है इन ए हार्डकोर क्रिश्चियन सोसाइटी,
हम्म,
तो ये कुछ हद तक सही हो सकता है। आई थिंक वी शुड,
हो सकता है.
व्हेन टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल दीज मतलब कार्ड्स ना, वी शुड बिलीव मोर इन द local pagan kingswandis than the narratives promoted by the kings and the emperors।
अरे we can believe, but how do we justify? My point, we need evidence. वही तो प्रॉब्लम है,
जस्टिफाई
एविडेंस
नहीं,
मिलनी
हम
चाहिए.
लोग रिफर करके कोट करेंगे, बिलीव, मतलब वी डोंट नो कि व्हाट एक्चुअली हैपेंड, बट इट इज वेरी लाइकली कि भाई ये सब क्रिश्चियन नैरेटिव है। वी हैव द राइट टू से कि दिस इज क्रिश्चियन नैरेटिव,
हाँ हाँ,
एंड वी
वो
कीप
कर सकते
सेइंग इट, सिंपल बात है।
हैं. वो कर सकते हैं. I agree.
none of their elites really believe, but they know exactly how exactly religions are in controlling masses. Exactly कि लोगों को मतलब नौकर बनाना नैरेटिव का, ठीक है। ये जो जितना सारा एडवर्टाइजमेंट हो गया, पॉलिटिक्स हो गया, नेशन स्टेट का क्रिएशन हो गया, स्लेवरी हो गया, कॉलोनियलिज्म हो गया, इस तरह का मास मोबिलाइजेशन करके फिर एक बड़े तबके को मतलब सर्वाइल कर देना, ये एक्चुअली अब्राहमिज्म का सबसे बड़ा मतलब पावर है। जो जिसके पास जो भी थोड़ा कनिंग हो, ठीक है, एनी कनिंग, एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ मैनिपुलेटिव पर्सन, दे नो द यूटिलिटी ऑफ अब्राहमिज्म।
Correct, but you must be very clear. They have one thing very good about they're very subtly they all have honesty in their like their entertainment. अगर आप देखेंगे, if you observe their entertainment honestly, very critically, right? You'll observe that their clergy have a lot of power in influencing what is क्या बोलते हैं, put out. They have a lot of influence, they have a lot of power, and even when they represent clergy in their entertainment, वो दिखाते हैं कि clergy are powerful. They don't show them as weak.
No, but it promotes ना, it promotes Christianism itself.
हाँ, but
क्लेरिटी का जो
हमारा
पीडोफिलिया है वो
प्रॉब्लम
नहीं
है,
दिखाता।
हमारा प्रॉब्लम है, हम जब हम क्रिटिकली देखते नहीं, हम अपने वो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैव नोटिस्ड दिस नैरेटिव, कोई लाइक कोई पॉजिटिव पंडित दिखाएंगे टीवी में,
Right.
सारे आ जाएंगे ये सो कॉल्ड व्हाट लाइक क्या बोल रैशनलिस्ट आ जाएंगे, बोलेंगे ये क्यों दिखाया। But जब
Right.
look at Western movies, they don't observe, oh, उन्होंने क्रिश्चियंस को बहुत जो क्लर्जी को बहुत अच्छी तरह से दिखाया है. There's some negative portrayal also, I'm not disagreeing, but majority of the portrayals are positive.
Right.
And not just positive, it's everywhere. If you take a movie, 10 times एक father आ जाएगा उस movie में.
Right.
And हर movie में there will be rarely a movie where there's not a Christian character जो ओपनली प्रेफेस करता है अपने फेथ को. लाइक वो भी मार्वल मूवी में था ना, रैंडमली थॉर आके बैठता है और वो बोलते हैं ये गॉड है, एंड स्टीव रॉजर्स रैंडमली बोलता है एक ही गॉड है. एक ही गॉड है. वहां भी क्रिश्चियनिटी लेके आते हैं.
This is quite interesting
Right. This is
data that
brilliant. This is brilliant.
virtually. And one more thing,
Ursuli is writing कि my Middle Eastern friends tell me our theology, मतलब Islam, ensures 30%, which are the lower classes, crazy and radical, right? 30% elites are super chalak, unlike our Brahmin Marxist, right? Remaining 40% are too scared to disagree. Exactly.
Correct, of course.
And one
मतलब मार्क्सिज्म को आउट ऑफ ऑल पीपल ब्राह्मण ने ज्यादा अडॉप्ट किया है भाई बाकी लोगों से.
वही तो प्रॉब्लम.
इन आवर कल्चर जिसे हम लोग शूद्र जो भी कहते हैं, लोअर कास्ट के कहते हैं, दे आर मोर हिंदू देन एवरेज ब्राह्मण भाई आज के जमाने में.
अरे वही तो प्रॉब्लम है ना. All even the founders of the Indian Constitution, instead of framing the Indic values, उन्होंने स्ट्रेट वेस्टर्न वैल्यूज के जंप कर लिया.
वही तो आज का लेक्चर था. आज का लेक्चर तो वही था.
और इस कम्युनिटी में और उस ग्रुप में तीन क्या 4 ब्राह्मण थे.
हाँ, जस्ट इमेजिन.
आप you didn't even think to include some principles from dharma. कुछ भी एक भी फ्रेमिंग कुछ नहीं है भाई. अगर आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में देखेंगे कुछ वही ड्यूटी, वो फंडामेंटल धार्मिक ड्यूटी हमारे
हिंदू वर्ड नहीं यूज किया गया है, मेजोरिटी यूज किया गया है. हिंदू वर्ड इज मिसिंग इन आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ ग्रेव इनजस्टिस हैज बीन डन टू अ country which was colonized for 1,000 years.
Exactly. Why do you get independence? अगर आपको वही
बुद्धिस्ट यूज किया गया है, सिख यूज किया गया है, सारा कुछ यूज कर लिया गया है, हिंदू नहीं यूज किया गया है. कोई बाद में कुछ ड्राफ्ट वाफ्ट आया था जहाँ पे बोला गया है कि ये सारे भी हिंदू हैं, जैसे बुद्धिस्ट, जैन और सिख ये हिंदू हैं, ये एक्नॉलेज किया गया. बाद में कोई ड्राफ्ट वाफ्ट लाके कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हिंदू वर्ड मिसिंग है.
They could have put Nastik and Astika. Both Astikas and Nastikas have the same rights in our constitution. ऐसे डाल सकते थे, कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता था वहां ऐसे डालना. It would covered everyone. It would have covered the tribals. It would have covered the mainstream. It would have covered the Buddhists. It would have covered the Jains. सबको cover करता था. You apply नहीं किया brain को. Just copy paste the Western framing. सब कुछ एक भी नहीं. Even the First Amendment is like a butchered form of the First Amendment. Western. I don't. I was talking to one of my financial advisor the other day. Okay, मैंने बोला उसको, I hate the Indian Constitution. It makes no bloody sense. The court मुझे दे दो attack
एक
me, but I may follow the Constitution, but I have a right not to like it. Like
एक
जो
चीज जो
हमारा
हिंदू को
duty है
फेवर कर
citizen को.
सकता था, ओनली वन, मतलब जो आई थिंक उसका जो फर्स्ट अमेंडमेंट हुआ वो फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच था.
Seriously.
फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच मतलब हिंदुओं को फेवर करता और उसको फिर कार्टेल कर दिया गया.
The funny part is Ambedkar is the only one who had clarity of thought about
हाँ,
how the constitution should be framed in such a way that
राइट.
Indians have a right to their own beliefs. The foreigner थोपेगा नहीं. Like he's the
हाँ,
most
कोई भी
like
पॉलिटिकल पार्टी करने की हिम्मत नहीं रखेगा यार. वी
exactly.
बिलीव इन कंप्लीट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच.
I mean, he actually epitomized the fundamentals that the dharmic values believe. Like, I mean, उसको छोड़कर they went to this nonsense. Like,
मतलब एनिमल्स के
Yeah,
लिए तो वो हिंदू पर्सपेक्टिव ला सकता था यार, कि 2-3 वो गीता का वो श्लोक कोट कर दो कि विद्या विनय संपन्नी ब्राह्मणी कवि हस्तिनी. हाँ, अम, मैं
living in
बार बार
harmony,
लाइन भूल गया
harmony with nature.
कि जो विद्वान जो है वो एक कुत्ता, एक ब्राह्मण, एक गौ और एक हाथी में फर्क नहीं देखता. इतना तो कर देता यार. ये तो बहुत अच्छा कोड है. मतलब इट टॉक्स अबाउट इक्वलिटी. इतना तो
अरे
कर सकते थे.
अरे मैं एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री देखा था. One guy from Karnataka, he made this documentary about vultures in India. In the past, कितने vultures होते थे? Because we looked at the idea that all species play their role in
राइट.
the food chain, right? And this has always been true forever, right? Then what
राइट.
happened? We became so materialistic. We started feeding our cows a drug that started killing vultures,
राइट.
right? Because they were eating the carcasses.
राइट.
We started killing the vultures because if you look at the dharmic system, all of the groups will have to be living peacefully in harmony, right? हमने क्या किया? For our own convenience, materialistic convenience, we sacrifice the vulture. And अब क्या हो रहा है? The increasing rise in diseases because the vultures are not
राइट.
there to eat up all the carcasses and remove all the
कुछ
rabies and
कुछ
everything.
कुछ
All
चीज तो इमीडिएटली कर सकते हैं. जैसे अगर रास्ता बना रहे हो तो
that.
मतलब मेक श्योर कि यार अच्छे से ज्यादा पेड़ लगाओ. इतना जो हमारे, मैं बार बार बोलता हूँ, इतना सारे सिटीज हैं, टाउन हैं,
Yeah.
तुम पेड़ काट काट के बना रहे हो. मेक श्योर कि यार ज्यादा से ज्यादा पेड़ लगा सको. मतलब दिस इज हार्डकोर हिंदुइज्म भाई. तुम कुछ नहीं करना. तुम एक अयोध्या राम टेम्पल बना रहे हो, पता नहीं कहाँ पे दूर, मतलब कैंपस में अभी थोड़ा ग्रास बस दिख रहा है, बट पेड़ ही नहीं है. ठीक है, तुम काशी का जो कॉरिडोर है वहां जो एक जो अक्षय वृक्ष था, जो बेनियन ट्री था, उसको तुम उखाड़ के फेंक दिया. तो तुम मतलब दिस इज द वेरी एसेंस ऑफ हिंदुइज्म यार. मतलब एक मंदिर को पेड़ के अलावा यू कैन नॉट इवन इमेजिन, और
Correct.
वो गायब कर रहे हो.
मंदिर without trees, without its own bell. कैसे
राइट.
हम कैसे मंदिर बनाते हैं लोग? रैंडमली एक
राइट.
जगह में एक
नहीं, छोटा मंदिर
आइडिया
ठीक
डाल.
है, बट अगर इतना स्केल पे बड़ा मंदिर बना रहे हो तो ये सब का इंतजाम रखो यार, कि
No, but every
गौशाला.
mandir. No, but you सोचो भाई, each mandir must have its own water source. It
राइट.
must
राइट.
have its own tulsi. It must have its own vriksha. It must have, or else the deity's prayer is not complete. But हम
राइट.
कैसे कर रहे हैं मटेरियलिज्म के लिए? ओ हमें भगवान के लिए करना है, एक छोटा सा मंदिर बना देंगे. Don't provide any of the stuff that the mandir requires.
नहीं नहीं, आई डिसएग्री विद दैट पार्ट की. ठीक है, छोटा मंदिर कोई गरीब बना रहे, ठीक है. मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि बड़ा मंदिर बना रहे हो तो
No,
ये,
but उसके
और
लिए
छोटे मंदिर के आसपास
स्पेस
वो
रहना
ये
चाहिए
सब
ना.
रहता है, वृक्ष वृक्ष रहता है.
हाँ वही तो बोल रहा हूँ. वही तो even the
मतलब
छोटे मंदिर had this stuff. मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ.
राइट. राइट.
Because bhakti was not just about, it's not a transaction. It was
एग्जैक्टली.
you literally cared for the person you're
एवरीथिंग.
venerating.
हाँ.
ये ट्रांजैक्शन हो गया भाई अब.
हाँ, विद्या विनय संपन्न ब्राह्मणी कवि हस्तिनी सुनी चेव शोपाके च पंडिता समदर्शिना. एग्जैक्टली, दिस इज द श्लोक.
अरे
कि
गुरुकुल में schools, you are supposed to have play area, you're supposed to have nature, You're supposed to experience the entire, in a Gurukul, you experience entire, you experience the play with animals. जो गुरुकुल में क्यों
Right.
होते थे? Why are they animals? So you understood how to be in sync with nature. सब
Right.
बच्चे अब क्या है गुरुकुल स्कूल में just you go to box, you study, you go home. That's it. किसी से like mix नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. एक dirty वाला like marching area है, बस हो गया. So I know in school I was when I was younger, right? जब मैं बच्चा था in Bangalore इतना जगह था यहाँ, like there was literally like the farms. हम पढ़ते थे, farm में जाके पढ़ते थे. Our teacher would take us into the farm, we'll sit there and study in the farms. वो चला गया है, वो सब गए हैं.
तो वही बात है, अभी बहुत कुछ रह गया और
Okay,
बहुत कुछ नहीं
so
रह
okay, so last comment. So if we
गया.
see, correct, the Bible we're talking about. So correct, the movies, na, the Book of Eli, where
Mhm.
they have shown Bible to be Bible which was written by Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, who is the president.
नहीं, प्रेसिडेंट हुआ था
So
क्या जेफरसन बाद में?
yeah, he was the president, correct?
हाँ,
Anand,
फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट
Third
वाज
president.
दिस गाय, वॉशिंगटन, जॉर्ज वॉशिंगटन.
so
उसके बाद
Jefferson,
Third
हुआ.
was
correct,
then
correct,
Thomas.
he-
हम्म.
correct.
But he wrote the
Thomas,
Constitution.
Jeff,
He was one of the
correct. He
father
wrote
of.
the Constitution. Also, he actually rewrote the Bible, which is which is called a Jeffersonian Bible, and
हाँ,
that's
so
where the
Jefferson
Americans follow.
was the president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. So yeah.
Yeah. So, so if you see, correct, in American movies, they will show Jefferson Bible as the Bible, not the any other Bible, as that the most authentic Bible, which the most holy book we should have. So if, I remember that specific part of that movie. I don't remember anything else, but I remember that specific part itself. That they mention Jeffersonian Bible as the Bible which needs to be preserved and which is the source of
Because it is
a
their
Renaissance
heritage. It
knowledge.
is their heritage. Other than these kind of little things, what heritage do they have? तो वो तो ठीक है.
Exactly.
मैं तो वही बोलता था कि मैं मैं एक बंदे को बोला था वहां पे कि मैं जिस अपने गांव में जिस मंदिर पे बैठता हूँ लोगों से बतियाने के लिए, उसका हिस्ट्री तेरे यूएस से पुराना है. सो ये तो है, ये फैक्ट है. तो जेफरसन बाइबल जो भी है, बाइबल इटसेल्फ इज अ वेरी इनकॉन्सिस्टेंट, मतलब लॉजिकल कोई, आप अगर गीता पढ़ते हो तो एक लॉजिकल कोहेरेंस है वहां पे.
Absolutely.
बाइबल और कुरान पे कोई लॉजिकल कोहेरेंस ही नहीं है. आपको मैं बाइबल दे दूंगा, आप पढ़ के दिखाओ क्या समझ में आ रहा है.
अरे उनके प्रॉफिट्स में कंसिस्टेंसी नहीं है भाई.
हाँ, तो मतलब क्या बात कर रहे हो.
अबे their prophets don't agree on most of the stuff. Like
Right.
Luke, सारे एब्राहम सब डिसएग्री करते रहते हैं भाई.
हाँ, जो प्रिंसिपल गॉस्पेल है, जो 4 मेन गॉस्पेल है, उसके अकाउंट में इधर उधर है.
अरे they can't reconcile Leviticus.
हाँ.
You know, अगर कोई Leviticus पढ़ेगा, all
Right.
99% of Christians are going to hell. अरे they can't eat pork. Christians are not supposed to eat pork. They're not supposed to eat shellfish. They're not supposed to mix their clothes, color clothes. It's a sin. It's a sin they can go to hell for. सब एब्रोगेट कर दिया suitability के लिए.
Right.
Okay, so let's finish our conversation. Vijita, I think
Right.
let's do it tomorrow as well if you can. So then we'll finish it about.
हाँ, let's
Number
see if we
9.
can do tomorrow. It will be fine. हाँ,
Yeah, so
it'll be
let's
great.
tomorrow do it. We'll do it little
Sure.
bit.
आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
Yeah, your audio got cut off. See something?
अभी आ रहा है शायद. नहीं.
No, nothing yet.
Yeah, I should be
हाँ,
audible now. My
हाँ, हाँ.
headset died actually. Okay. So we'll closing comments from Vijita, Anand, and Rishi, and then we will again reconvene tomorrow to do the part 9.
नहीं, क्लोजिंग कमेंट तो हो गया. मतलब क्या ही हो रहा है.
No, at least formally you should do the closing comment.
नहीं नहीं, क्लोजिंग कमेंट होगा फिर और
I
विवाद हो
think
जाएगा. I
slavery
think
we
we have
need to.
discussed everything extensively.
Yeah. I think slavery we need to do a one episode because it will be bit large.
Okay,
Slavery
Because
is very
slavery,
good.
slavery we need to do a single episode with all the other references and incidents
right.
that we will do it. Okay. Yeah, Anand.
Okay, so
Echo हो रहा है.
come on. Okay, so I'll just talk about colonialism because I think that's what we've basically covered. The idea that uh, human beings are endowed with fundamental rights is a very interesting narrative that Christians spin, but throughout their history, they have not been able to achieve it. The only time when they've been achieve it is when they have mixed their inculcated lots of pragmatism, lots of deistic ideas about the nature of God and humanity, right? And the removal of racial bias. It's only that time they've been able to even come close to the idea of every human being is endowed with some fundamental ideas, fundamental values. And the only ones who even the only Westerners who have been able to come to that close to the ideal are ones who are non-religious. Like religious people
Right.
cannot, essentially, are not able to do it. Colonialism itself has proven that they have kept every other group, including Christians, that they convert under them, right? So even their religion is not provided equality in terms of its fundamental tenets. So we need to frame that on a regular basis everywhere we go. What discussion we talk about, whether we talk about Africa, Asia, North America, South America, everywhere this is true. Thanks.
Rishi.
Rishi,
Rishi, you are there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So on the issue of secularism, I had some comments. Even though they tried this experiment of secularism with the whole commandment from Jesus, yet again, uh, you give what belongs to Caesar to him, and you render to God what belongs to God, which became the origin for the political theory of two kingdoms, right? Spiritual and temporal. Yet I see time and time again they always mix it up. So the legitimacy of state also somehow they bring in from Bible itself at the end of the day, where they refer to that whole passage about God sent these states, so-called, to govern the people that He has made, and therefore the legitimacy of state comes from Bible itself. And yet again, religion creeps in time and time again. We see now, as Ananda was also referring to, with Christianity going full throttle in America yet again. We also see that in some parts, even in Britain as well. So this secularism also is also failing in their countries, and also Jacob D. Rover mentioned this, right? So Christian secularism, there is this term as well. So even secularism never remained separate from religion itself.
Okay, so thank you everybody, and do remember to check out this specific book, Unbaptized by Mr. Dhanraj. Uh, if you can buy this book, read this book. It's we're going to cover this book in our previous podcast, in the coming podcast, and also we will have her in the show itself to talk about her book and her journey of being a Sanatani itself. So thank you very much. Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.
Jai Shri Ram.